Hey, welcome. Good to have. What a wild weekend in the NFL. Holy mackerel. What a weekend. I mean, it was a tremendous weekend to sit back, relax, and not do much of anything. And I was really, honestly, I was glad the Packers played on Monday night because I might have missed some of the excitement that was. Obviously, that game in Minnesota was amazing. There is no way you can allow Jeff Saturday to be the head coach of the Colts after that mess that they had. Now they're 4-9-1. He's won one game, and they have now lost the largest lead in NFL history. There's no way you can bring Jeff Saturday back. None. No way. Obviously, you had an interesting one with the Browns getting a win on Saturday as well, knocking off the Ravens. Ravens without Lamar Jackson, completely different team. The Bills eking out a victory over the Dolphins in the snow on Saturday night, which was fantastic. I love watching some snow flurry games. The Steelers made believers out of us. There you go. Steelers get a win. They knocked off the Panthers. We knew the Eagles would beat the Bears. I didn't expect it to be a 25-20 score, but they struggled. But you know what? Good teams overcome. That's exactly what they did. The Chiefs did the same thing with the Texans. And then we called it. The Jaguars knocking off the Cowboys 40-34. Dak Prescott pick six. Now, that pick wasn't his fault. The one prior was, but that one wasn't. But nevertheless, it bounces into the arms of the Jaguars. Next thing you know, they're off and running, and the game is over. And the Saints hang on. They knock off the Falcons. How about them Lions? Break them up. Now at 500. We said at the beginning of the season, I thought they'd be right around 6 to 8 wins. They're now at 7-7. 7-7 with 3 to go. 7-7 with 3 to go. We'll see what happens there. The Broncos, they eked out a win over the Cardinals. The Cardinals, how bad are they? They just flat out stink. Both of those teams 4-10 on the season. How the Raiders won that game and how dumb was a Bill Belichick coach team when all they had to do was go down, live to fight another day, go to overtime, try to win it there, and instead it brought back the remnants of, my God, the band is on the field. The band is on the field. And they're doing the trickery. And next thing you know, it's picked off and it goes the other way and the game's over and the Raiders win. It was just, what a wild game. Tennessee gets knocked off by the Chargers. They looked good, but they didn't play well enough. Cincinnati beats the Buccaneers. Cincinnati looked terrible in the first half of that game, only putting up 3 points. And then coming back with 31 unanswered. Well, I take that back. There was a touchdown at the end of the game, so it was answered. But 31 points in the second half to knock off the Buccaneers. And then last night, oh, my God, what a travesty of officiating. In that the Commanders should have won that game, and they didn't, or at least tied it. And they didn't, and it was due in part to officiating that literally took a touchdown off the board. It was disgusting. And the NFL officials don't tweet anything out. They don't explain anything. They don't give the reason why they did what they did. They just walk away from it like always. So the Commanders on the losing end. And give credit to the Giants going into Washington. They got the win. But now that means that the Commanders, both, I mean, you figure when you look at the Giants schedule and the Commanders schedule, between the two, you got to get 3 losses with one of those two teams. We all know that. So you look at the Giants the rest of the way, and I really thought that the Giants would be the team to falter. And now they've got the Vikings, which they could very well lose to the Vikings. The Colts, doubt it, but maybe. And then the Eagles. They'll lose to the Eagles. So they could lose 2 of the next 3, but not 3 of the next 4, which is what you wanted them to do. While Washington, they now have to lose 2 of their next 3 for the Packers to win and get in, which they could lose to the 49ers. The Browns, they won't lose to the Browns, and they could lose to the Cowboys, depending on what the Cowboys are doing at the end of the season here when it comes to seeding and standing. So anyway, just a lot of stuff going on, man. What an incredible football weekend. And then the Badgers, how about them Badgers, Ben Kenny? Picking up a quarterback, and it's like the portal world is being kind to them. There's now running backs saying, "Whoa, wait a minute! No. I'm coming to Wisconsin to hang out with Luke Fickell now that he's the head man." Are you grinning ear to ear today?
I'm actually fired up on this Monday, Bill. Believe it or not, it was a great weekend, and yeah, all the news coming out of Wisconsin is good, and that's all we can ask for, given it's mid-December.
It was a nice weekend. They picked up a quarterback, running backs reconsidering Wisconsin now, wanting to head over there because of Luke Fickell and what they believe he can do with the program. That it is a quote sleeping giant of a program, which is nice to hear. So that going on. So we got a lot of good stuff today. A lot of good stuff coming up today. We're going to talk some Packers and Rams, obviously. Mike Clemens is going to join us in the final hour. Going to talk with him. We're going to talk some betting today, which we always do on a Monday and on a Friday. We've got some betting coming up here in a little bit. Let's see here. What else do we have? Like I said, we'll mention, we'll talk a little Badgers, Bucks over the weekend, get some wins. So not a bad weekend all in all. I think it was a nice way to go. Bucks coming up tonight, taking on the Pelicans. By the way, speaking of the Pelicans, and I never thought Zion Williamson would be this. Just never thought it. He's now hitting shots from the outside. He is basically the Pelicans team, sitting with 18 wins on the season. They're having a hell of a year. Never thought that he would amount to this. Never thought he would. But I will gladly eat my words. Now, whether or not he can keep it up, we'll wait and see. But the Bucks on the road, taking on the Pelicans coming up tonight. They beat the hell out of the Jazz on Saturday night. They were up, Ben, weren't they up by like 50 at one point in that game, if I remember correctly? I have to admit, I was smoking a cigar and kind of watching it out of the corner of my eye. We were down at Nice Ash. We went to dinner down at a place called the Union House in Genesee Depot, which is fantastic. Went to the Union. I'd never been there before. And went to the Union House. Everybody else eats steak. I'm not a big steak fan. So I did the sea scallops, and oh my God, the whole meal was fantastic. But afterwards, we went and had a beer down at Nice Ash before heading home. And I was catching the mid portion of the Bucks game. But correct me if I'm wrong, the Bucks were up by like 50 at one point, right?
I don't know. It did come off the heels of getting blown out by 40.
Yeah.
It's a weird sport.
Right. Yeah, they got destroyed. What was it on? Thursday night, I think they did.
Thursday.
Thursday. Yeah. They got beat by the Grizzlies. But on Saturday night, man, they just destroyed Utah. Holy moly. So a big night for Bobby Portis, dropping 22 and such. So I was watching that too. But the Bucks continue to roll 21-8 on the season. The Bucks are right now, and when you look at the NBA standings, the Bucks now have taken over via one less loss. Boston's 22 wins, but they're 22-9. The Bucks are 21-8 on the season. So if the Bucks get the win tonight, they're going to be 22-8, and they will still hold on to the top spot. But the top spot in the Eastern Conference, as far as wins go, Boston has the most wins in the NBA. The Memphis Grizzlies with Ja Morant and company, they over in the West, 19-10. Followed by tonight's opponent, the New Orleans Pelicans, who are 18-11, Denver 18-11. And as it goes down from there, I love the fact that the Lakers are sitting there at 13-16. Golden State, without Steph, they're going to struggle a little bit, and they haven't been able to win on the road. As a matter of fact, they're 3-14 on the road this season. 3-14 for the Golden State Warriors. But Golden State without Steph right now, 15-16. And if again, it's very early, but if the playoffs were today, they'd be out. They wouldn't be able to come back to defend their championship. So anyway, by the way, the Bucks, was it third or fourth best when it comes to point differential? Right now, Boston the best with a point differential of 6. Cleveland at 5.9. You got 5.3 with the Pelicans, and then you got the Bucks sitting at 4.2. There's a couple other teams around them, but Bucks still playing some good basketball and better defensive basketball this year too. So that's kind of it. That's kind of the rundown of the weekend. What a weekend it was. Now, I got to admit, I was rooting for Washington. I think Washington had the better road to go when it came to I thought Washington had the better road when it came to chance of loss against other teams, against other opponents. I felt more confident that Washington would go down than I did New York. But now New York facing, 2 very likely still for the Packers, if indeed the Packers can win. out. Most people are thinking Packers will get this one tonight. Then it's that Christmas Day matchup down in Miami where they take on two company, and they have and remember now when you look at the Dolphins and what's going on with the Dolphins have been playing some losing football. The Dolphins now have lost 3 straight. They got to stop the bleeding. So they haven't won a game since they beat the Texans. A while back, they beat the Texans 30-15. They had that win streak for a while where they won 5 straight. Remember, they started off the season 3 straight wins, and they had 3 straight losses because Cincinnati went down there and beat them, and that started the losing. They lost to the Vikings 24-16, and then they beat the Steelers, the Lions, the Bears, the Browns, the Texans. So they're not beating high-end quality stomp-your-ass teams, right? So then they get the 49ers, they get drilled, they get the Chargers, they get beat, they get the Buffalo Bills this past weekend, and they couldn't hang on to win that contest. Now they got the Packers on Christmas Day, then the Patriots and the Jets. But are they a good team? You know, because really the only 2 teams of ilk that they've beaten all season long that are of quality are the Ravens and the Bills. And that was, week 2 and week 3, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So they're not a great football team by any stretch. I think some of those numbers and some of their expectations and such maybe are overinflated and overthought. Speaking of overinflated and overthought, how about them Cowboys? How about them Cowboys? Cowboys take a loss as well. Yes! And man, oh man, the Cowboys they just can't get out of their own way and can't get out of the criticism. Now, I will say that it's not fair. It's not fair. And I'm going to say this, and you're going to think I'm defending Mike McCarthy, and I'm really not, but I am. And I'll tell you why. During the season when that offense was cooking, Mike McCarthy was not the play caller. He had turned it over, and everybody said, oh, since Mike gave it up and he wasn't the play caller and he wasn't the guy that was got his fingers in everything, and Kellen Moore was the guy. Kellen Moore is the man. He's the guy that's turned it around. And then yesterday, the play calling on the 3 straight flush outs was horrific. They couldn't call a timeout. They couldn't force Jacksonville into a timeout situation. They 3rd and long, instead of just, going down with a sack and forcing that last timeout by the Jacksonville Jaguars, they decided to throw the ball deep, incomplete pass, stop the clock, and they didn't force Jacksonville to use that timeout. Just in all that whole play sequence, dumb. And suddenly Mike McCarthy's the idiot. It's like, wait a minute. Either Kellen Moore's a genius or he was the guy that called that play. One of the two. Because you can't blame McCarthy for the failures and give Kellen Moore all the credit for the offense. Dak had a bad pass deep in his own territory that ended up going errant and getting picked off. And then Kellen Moore called a bad go route, 3-go route. And it on a 3rd and 8 or 9 or something like that. And it was awful. You're sitting there watching that game. You're like, what the hell? And, instead of forcing Jacksonville, had Jacksonville been forced to use that timeout, chances are they don't win the game, or the chances are they don't tie the game. And then obviously the rest is history. But boy, the Cowboys go down in defeat too. Made me smile. Made me smile a lot. So that's the way yesterday kind of wrapped up. 877-867-1670. This one says, hey, Bill, not the 92.3 here in Marshfield today. I have no idea. I don't 92.3 in Marshfield. My assumption is we are. I don't know. You'd have to call in, find out. We didn't get a notification that they changed. So is that still ESPN, WOSQ? I would assume it is. Ricky says, was a must-watch to listen to a Skip Clueless this morning. Oh, my God. See, that would be the only time I think I would ever really watch Skip Bayless. And you know what? I don't mind basking in his misery, but it was like to the opposite end. I'm watching Good Morning Football, and Good Morning Football is more analytical than anything, right? So I'm watching that, and then I flipped over, and then there's Stephen A. And I like Stephen A. I think he makes me think, right? But the pomposity that has become Stephen A's shtick is unbearable. And the relishing of every Cowboys loss has become unbearable. It's just, it's not even listenable anymore. I'd rather just listen to the analytics and listen to the breakdown and a differing amount of opinions than somebody standing at the pulpit preaching to me about what I need to believe rather than what actually happened. And I can't just do it. It's ugh. So That's it. 877-867-1670. Hit us up. Again, 877-867-1670. Apparently, Ben's telling me, yes, we are on in Marshfield. They take the 3 hours of the program, 11 to 2, then 5 to 6, I guess. I have no idea. There you go. There you go. And by the way, there is an article out that was written in The Athletic. And this is the one about signals, meetings, Aaron Rodgers, little death stare, what's it like for Packers rookie receivers. And The Athletic put it out. The writer, the author of that story, which is Kailyn Kaler of The Athletic, she's going to join us today coming up in a couple hours. And we're going to talk with her about the research and the comments and such regarding receivers that have had to go through the rookie season, if you will, with Aaron Rodgers, and how tough it is. And then what I want to do after that is kind of draw some opinion. If it's that tough, if it's that difficult to understand, then I hate to go back to it, but there's no reason. If you got to do all of this and there's these level of expectations out of Aaron Rodgers, then he's got to be there. He can't just walk in and say somebody else is going to coach him up. He's got to be there. And this will maybe kind of shed a little more light on that as well. So we're going to get into that discussion too. And then yesterday, real quick, yesterday, and Ben, you probably have never done this, but yesterday, I'm out cruising around, and we didn't do much yesterday. We went out, got some food in the morning, and then came back yesterday afternoon, in the evening. Kids, now they didn't come to my door because it's kind of like a different section of the neighborhood, but it's hard to explain. But down the street, there were carolers going door to door, and it just brought back a memory. Ben, did you ever go Christmas caroling?
I've never caroled. I've seen the caroling.
Yeah. It was as a kid, my mom used to have us do it. It was like 5 or 6 years in a row. And where as a kid, we would always grab, it was the old Folgers coffee can. We would wrap it in Christmas wrapping paper. Obviously it was empty. Wrap it in Christmas wrapping paper and put like a sign on it of some type. One year we did for Children's Hospital. Next year we did for our church. There was one year there was a kid, his family in our parish, their house had burned down. We did it for them, but we would always go caroling for charity. And we take a book with us, and it was just a book of the words of songs. And we'd always have, there was one person down the street, and I think her name was Mrs. Klein, but she was a music teacher. So she would start out singing, and we would all just kind of follow her. But there was like 7 or 8 of us that would go caroling in the neighborhood, and we would raise money. You don't get that anymore. You just don't see that anymore. That's and everybody would run in and, hey, grab, you hear somebody's mom say, grab my purse, and they'd stick a $5 in there or a couple of bucks in there or whatever. And by the end of the night, we would have $100. But back in the 70s, that was quite a bit of money. I hate to say it that way because it makes me sound like I'm 100 years old. But in the late 70s, early 80s, that's the 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, whatever. That was quite a bit of money. So that's what we used to do. You don't see that anymore. And it's just one of those things that dawned on me. It's like, there's things you don't see anymore, and things that back when you were a kid and I was a kid, you'd never see. You didn't ever see, like houses that were programmed to lighting. You didn't see Christmas lights that were put up by companies. You didn't see inflatables in the front yard. There weren't inflatables back then. Nobody, that wasn't a concept. I mean, so much has changed in via Christmas, so to speak, but it's just some things that were just really cool have kind of gone away. And we would always go the weekend before, like the Saturday or Sunday or even Friday night before Christmas, and go out and do Christmas caroling. And it just reminded me of it because there was a group that was Christmas caroling yesterday afternoon, and they had the candles and the whole thing. It was really cool. It was a really cool group. Just don't see it anymore. Just thought I'd throw it out there. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Hit us up on Twitter at Bill_Michaels, at Bill_Michaels, at Ben Z. Kenny. You can find the Bill Michaels Show on Facebook, facebook.com/The Bill Michaels Show. Track us down over on YouTube as well. Simply Bill Michaels Show on YouTube, Bill Michaels Show on Twitch TV. Follow us, subscribe there, like us there, thumbs up, whatever the hell you got to do, please do it. And you can always email the program as well, thebillmichaels@gmail.com. A reminder coming up tonight, immediately following the Packers and the Rams, it's a Green and Gold postgame show. We'll be live in Green Bay. Your comments, your reaction, Mike inside the locker room, the whole deal. Looking forward to it. Coming up tonight, immediately following the game. We'll be back after this.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
One of the worst things that you can hear, you have cancer. The worst is when you hear the words, your child has cancer. When a child is diagnosed with cancer, it changes their world. Sometimes they can't even do things that they really love, like playing soccer, riding a bike, going to prom, attending school. Children with cancer spend a lot of time away from others. Time in the hospital, treatments, tired, nauseous, and they feel isolated. That's where Special Spaces Wisconsin steps in. They provide these children with a special space where they can not only sleep, but they can play, they can heal, they can spend time away from the challenges of their illness. It's a customized bedroom designed just for them. How about a princess castle or a pirate ship or a sports-themed bedroom? They transform that child's existing bedroom into a place that only he or she can imagine. A place for them just to be a kid. This effort is done with teams of dedicated volunteers and sponsors, just like our friends from Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin and all the community partners. If you'd like to find out more or to donate, go to specialspaces.org. That is specialspaces.org.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. So in Green Bay tonight for the Green and Gold postgame show, and then DJ's Goalpost on Wednesday night for the Bill Michaels Huddle. So come on out. 877-867-6 do it. This one's from Jason, who says the Green Bay Packers really don't stand a chance. I don't see the Washington Commanders losing 2 out of the next 3. He said, I think maybe they lose a game at best. The Packers aren't going to win out. It is false hope. I hate to say it. You know what? It's not false hope. It's real hope. False hope is when there is absolutely no shot. It's you're trapped in a mine and you see light at the end of a tunnel, but it's just a light. It's not really getting out of a mine, out of the tunnel, so to speak. I don't know what to make. The Packers just need to win tonight. Okay. I think the whole concept of winning out, and you and I can talk about it and get into that discussion a little bit. And certainly going to Miami is going to be a tough one. And then facing the Vikings. The Vikings are an impressive team in the sense that they just don't blink when it comes to being down in a football game. And there's something to be said for that. I still think the Vikings are not going to go far in the postseason. I just don't, because the good teams don't allow that to happen. And the Vikings made so many mistakes, and Kirk Cousins made so many mistakes. And by the way, did you see my tweet over the weekend, Ben, when I was watching that game? Why in the hell are you blowing that horn and getting crazy over a first down when you're down 33-0?
That's a good question.
It's the dumbest thing.
Grant Bills brought up the thought that when they were booing the team,
Yeah.
he wondered if that was piped in like the rest of the crowd noise.
No, I think the boos were real because that was a terrible performance. That first half was awful. I mean, just horrific. And again, I am beyond baffled that the Minnesota Vikings, how they came back and won that game. They had a block punt and then a fumble, and then they turned the ball over on downs. Then they turned the ball over on downs again. Then they had a punt, then an interception, then a punt, and then the half ended. That was their first half. And then they had a punt, touchdown, then another Kirk Cousins pick. Then they went touchdown, turned it over on downs, a touchdown, a punt, and a field goal, and they ended it. I just, how they ended up with that many possessions, it's beyond belief to me. How many possessions they had, specifically in the second half of that ball game. They had 9 possessions in regulation in the second half of that game. 9. Sometimes you don't see it 9 times in a game. They had 9 possessions in the second half, and then 2 of them in overtime. It's what an incredibly crazy game that game was. But there's no way you can allow Jeff Saturday to coach that team again. No way. That was horrible. That was just horrible.
He lost a game where his last name is the day of the week the game was on. That's ridiculous. That's when you know he's not the guy.
God, that was so bad. And Matt Ryan is he's now been on the losing end of the largest comeback in Super Bowl history and the largest comeback of all in NFL history. No capability to lead, no killer instinct, no ability to put your foot on the throat and then just slam the door shut. None of it. Now, you got to have better play calling, and players have to make plays, and the offensive line didn't give him a lot of time and such. But he just terrible, just awful. And at least he didn't throw a pick, but the ability to throw the football, nothing. There was Pittman and everybody else. That's all they had. There was nothing else. Nobody else had the capability to get open. So, what a game. Just an awful game. 877-867-1670. Find us. We'll take one more quick break. Kind of get back on track here. and then we'll come back at it. This portion of the program, though, brought to you by our good friends at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. And Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, just think about it right now, because if you want to kind of keep the jingle in your pocket, as they say, then you get a hold of our friends at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, because the weather is now cold. It's official, people. In case you didn't know, it's nippy outside. Woke up this morning, ran downstairs, went downstairs, and I thought, okay, today I wake up, it is 1 degree. 1 degree. I'm thinking it's going to be cold in that room. Nada. Set right at 70, staying right at 70. So if you've been thinking about kind of a great gift to unwrap and make your house more economical, more beautiful, more valuable, think about this. No money down, no payments, no interest for the next 12 months. That's more jingle that stays right in your pocket all the way through the next holiday season. Yes, at the end of 2023. Plus, they install year-round, and they can finish the installation in as little as a day. From wood to fiberglass to vinyl, they've got something for everybody's budget. And Pella has been rated #1 for the highest value, highest quality, most preferred by many of you listening to this program. I'll tell you that right now. So make this your New Year's resolution right now. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. No money down, no payments, no interest, 12 months. But you got to hurry, because this offer is going to be around till the end of the month. And you want to schedule that free consultation, just like I did. Free consultation. Go to PellaWI.com. That's PellaWI.com, or call them at 855 Pella WI. That's 855 PELLA 855 Pella WI.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back. Well, they had a hell of a crowd at the Social House for the World Cup game this past weekend. Man, a lot of people packed into that place. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Saturday for the World Cup, Saturday also for NFL games. They came over early on Sunday as well for the NFL games. Man, the pancakes were flowing, that's for sure. And the home of the cheese curd burger. Look, Lisbon Road, Menominee Falls, that's Social House. H-A-U-S. Dan Dell and his staff, great people. But if you buy a cocktail there on Sunday morning, get free pancakes. Otherwise, you go in, you get good food. They've enlarged the place. Renovation's been successful. And the fact that they are the home of the original cheese curd burger. Good stuff over there. Thanks for House on Lisbon Road, Menominee Falls. Great. 877-867-1670. You want to find us, please feel free. Go ahead and do so. Craig says, Unit, the Green Bay Packers got to have a little faith as fans. This team just needs to take it one game at a time. Can they do it? Yes. Will they do it? We'll have to wait and see. But the likelihood of one of those teams in the NFC East losing the next couple of games is high. I'm feeling it. Good stuff. Thank you very much. Love the optimism. Love the enthusiasm. I do. Coming back to the top of the hour, we'll talk a little bit more about this article in The Athletic. Coming up tonight, like I mentioned at the beginning of the program, so immediately following the game, so make sure wherever you're at, you are listening to the program or watching the program. This is this is from Joy. He said, I took a lot of myself in watching the Dallas Cowboys take on the Thanks for putting on video. Joy, Art says that watching Skip Bayless melt down today was well worth it. Can't stand that guy. Anytime he's in misery, I am in. I hope it's I can't we just had an email from Joy. Oh my goodness. I understand you. I'm with you. Kevin says we just hope that Matt LaFleur's team is ready to play. It appeared that Jeff Saturday's team was ready to play. The first half was awesome. The second half was horrible. He had no way to pull his team out of the tailspin. That is something that a good coach can do. Coach. For Matt LaFleur, he's past learning on the fly. He has to be productive tonight and prove to the world that, yes, they can. Yes, they can. Green Bay Packers, can they get a win? Yeah, they can. They could probably do it. We'll wait and see. But I think the Packers are going to win tonight. Ben, how'd I do over the weekend, by the way, in the betting column?
2-1, both of us. Well, the Thursday game was the thing that changed it. I was the one who actually stuck to my gut and took the Jaguars.
Yeah.
Only this show, I think, was peddling that as hard as we could.
Yeah.
I won with the Lions as well. Close one against the Jets. You lost with the Bills, but you had the Steelers.
I had the Steelers getting the win. I lost with the Bills because I thought the Bills would I knew the Bills would win. I just figured the Bills would win by more. I didn't say, but kudos to Miami for coming in and playing them so tough.
Oh, and no one's leading national shows talking about the snowballs, Bill. Because if it happens in Buffalo, it's totally fine. If it happens in Philly, it's 55 years of just always mentioned.
Yeah, the bad behavior by the fan. Now, though, here's the one thing. You got to be able to clear your. I get it that snow fell during the game, and they've had a tremendous amount of snow. So I don't know if you saw the video where like rows weren't even. You couldn't even get into rows because the snow was piled so high, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I just, you got to clear the stadium. That's first and foremost, and that's not just for fan safety; it's for player safety, as we saw. For the fans to act up the way they did I agree, is disgraceful. And I was looking at people. There was people that I know that live in upstate New York on Facebook that were saying, "Oh, this is great." I'm like, and I was texting a few people. I'm like, "No, it's not great. It's embarrassing." But you're right. It's the Buffalo Bills Mafia. It's what they do. Oh, look at, they're having fun. But you're right. If that was Philadelphia, it would be the rowdy Philadelphia fans, the fans that they probably had batteries in the snowballs. I mean, all that kind of stuff. I agree with you. It was a disgraceful display. And the fact that they had to shut it down to get people to stop and start pointing people out is embarrassing. What do you say? I mean, and you're right. Nobody has talked about it this morning. Nobody. I 100% agree with you. Now, because when you said that, I'm like, boy, you're right. Nobody said it on Get Up. Nobody said it on ESPN Sports Center. Nobody said it on Good Morning Football. Nobody said it on Bleacher. Nobody said it on Barstool. Nobody talked about it because I listen or watch all four of those in the morning usually. Nobody said it. Not a word. Not a word about that. It was just one of those, big deal. Oh, that's the Bills Mafia being cool. It wasn't cool. You're right. You're 100% correct. If you are a Philadelphia Eagles fan, you kind of take offense to that because had it been your fan base, you'd have been just chastised for it. 100% true. 100%.
It doesn't really bother me. I just found it. I found it interesting, the reaction,
right?
Especially on Twitter, right? Because they posted the picture of the big screen saying that they'll give penalties for the Bills if they keep throwing snowballs.
Right.
Everyone was kind of celebrating it.
Right. Yeah. No,
there's some irony there.
I would agree with you. 100%. I will defend your honor, Ben. No problem. Hey, speaking of good stuff, our friends at J&L Tire out in Johnson Creek, right there above 94. You can see the Goodyear sign from above the highway. You can find them there, also in Watertown, but they do great work. And whether you're an over-the-road driver, whether you're somebody like a soccer mom, big rig, whatever it happens to be, anything in between, they have something for everybody. They can take care of all the different needs that you have automotively, truck repairs and such, brakes, you name it, oil changes, windshield wipers, tires, major engine work, whatever your need, they can do it. Don't forget about our friends at J&L Tire, jnltire.com. That's jnltire.com. More of the Bill Michaels Show next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket, this is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
One of the worst things that you can hear, you have cancer. The worst is when you hear the words, your child has cancer. When a child is diagnosed with cancer, it changes their world. Sometimes they can't even do things that they really love, like playing soccer, riding a bike, going to prom, attending school. Children with cancer spend a lot of time away from others. I'm in the hospital, treatments, tired, nauseous, and they feel isolated. That's where Special Spaces Wisconsin steps in. They provide these children with a special space where they can not only sleep, but they can play, they can heal, they can spend time away from the challenges of their illness. It's a customized bedroom designed just for them. How about a princess castle or a pirate ship or a sports-themed bedroom? They transform that child's existing bedroom into a place that only he or she can imagine. A place for them just to be a kid. This effort is done with teams of dedicated volunteers and sponsors, just like our friends from Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin and all the community partners. If you'd like to find out more or to donate, go to specialspaces.org. That is specialspaces.org.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Now, in Green Bay, here's Mike Clemens.
It's the Rams and the Packers. Tonight at 7:15 here at Lambeau Field. Aaron Jones is in his 6th season with the Packers. So far, he has 4 touchdown receptions this season, but only 2 rushing TDs. Is the cold weather an advantage for running backs?
It is. December football in Lambeau is nothing like it. Cold. And I feel like guys think about it when they're coming down to tackle. It hurts them too to tackle and hit that ground. So they think about it a little bit more. Just that's all I need is a second of you thinking, and I'm out of there.
The Rams come into the game with several key players out with injuries. Head coach Sean McVay.
From a game status, Brian Allen will be questionable. Marquise Copeland will be out. Aaron Donald will be out. Traven Howard will be out. David Long will be out. And John Wofford will be out.
Rams defensive back Jalen Ramsey says it's hard to replace guys like Aaron Donald dealing with an ankle injury, quarterback Matthew Stafford, wide receiver Cooper Kupp.
Some boys you just can't feel, right? And that's just the reality of it. Like, ain't nobody be AD, can't nobody be Stafford, can't nobody be Cooper Kupp around here. And we ain't even asking for that. I'm staying strong for them, and I'm pushing through it, and I'm working hard. I'm doing all the things that I just named so that they can see me doing that by example and when I'm with all of them. So I'm going through the same things that they going through.
The Packers' Christian Watson has caught 8 touchdowns the past 4 games. How does the rookie receiver plan to deal with a trash talker like Jalen Ramsey while catching passes in the cold?
My number one objective is to get warm and stay warm. I think once you get moving around, it's not bad. But just try not to think about it as much as you can. Just play ball. And obviously, I know he's going to talk a lot. I know he's going to be, pretty chippy. But, I'm just going to do me.
That's Packers wide receiver Christian Watson. In Green Bay, I'm Mike Clemens on The Bill Michaels Show.
RV dealer throughout the state of Wisconsin. Again, that's Kunes RV. Go to KUNES, KunesRV.com. That is KunesRV.com. action.com. Bring him in now, our guy Matt Mitchell of the Action Network. Oh boy, Uncle Mitch over there on Twitter. Matt, how you doing?
Bill, I'm having a holly jolly good time. We got the Myrtle Beach Bowl this afternoon. It's the most wonderful time of the year for gamblers.
You got a good bowl bet this week, so to speak?
Oh, goodness gracious. Almost too many to count, but one would probably be Air Force and Baylor under, expecting absolutely dreadful weather in that game. And we have a triple option team, well-prepared Service Academy in a bowl game. Under's always, if not a fun bet, at least a profitable one.
Okay, there you go. So pay attention to that one. The game tonight is the one we're all paying attention to, obviously. And that being said, you've got the Packers, who are favored to win, and a lot of injuries on the Rams side of things. How do you see this one shaking out?
So we've got Green Bay off a bye, obviously. They opened the season minus 450 to make the playoffs. They're now 7-1. But last three seasons, Rodgers has dominated in night games, 12-4 straight up and against the spread in 25 night games as a 6-point favorite or higher. You know, these opportunities where he's favored to win the game. He's won 22 times and covered 17 times in the 25 games. He hasn't lost at home in Monday Night Football in almost 10 years. So certainly overwhelming favoritism toward the Packers winning this one outright. Baker Mayfield has lost his last 3 on Monday Night Football. He's gone 16 consecutive games since the last time he covered back-to-back times. He obviously had that miracle cover last time out for the Rams. Sean McVay, coach of the Rams, very good in primetime himself, 17-11 against the spread. But, you know, even so many indicators are pointing to the Rams not taking this terribly seriously. Speaking of odds, as late as week 7, they were still 20-1 to win the Super Bowl. They are now, you know, almost off the board, 750-1. They have virtually no shot whatsoever. Kind of a lost season for them following the Super Bowl win. It is not going to be pretty. It's not going to be a game most outside of the state of Wisconsin are excited about. But I think if you bet, I think you could do worse than taking the Packers against the spread tonight in a game they're overwhelmingly likely to win outright.
Here's the thought, because now with the loss of the Washington Commanders, the likelihood the Packers need to win out, and I don't know what the bet is on that, if there is one, but then the Commanders have to lose, a couple more, or you've got to have the Giants lose the next 3 and Seattle lose 1 more. You don't have the odds of the Green Bay Packers actually making the postseason right now, do you?
Yeah, that's 7-1. They're 7-1 to make the playoffs in any form.
Okay, 7-1, which is not terrible.
Not till you think it feels more like 25-1, but there is certainly a path for them to make it, especially when you have probably the best quarterback of the teams in the mix.
Right. Yeah, that's not a bad path to actually get there at all in all when you look at it. So you did a little bit in the college football scoreboard. Give me the college football Final Four as we start. We'll talk more about this as we get into that direction. But now we're going to start talking about getting into the Final Four, Ohio State and Georgia and TCU and Michigan. Let's talk about those teams going into the Final Four in the championship.
So we have, an overwhelming amount of support for Michigan facing up against TCU. Michigan, a 7.5-point favorite for that college football playoff semifinal game. Michigan in this almost unbelievable performance coming from behind and in one-score games. They won a miraculous number of games by one score for a team that finished almost undefeated. I think they enjoyed a lovely season. They got as far as they needed to go. Congratulations to them. They certainly made me plenty of money. But I think Michigan's of an entirely different class altogether with superior personnel on both sides of the ball. I know lots of people have their hang-ups with the way Jim Harbaugh operates his team, but I think 7.5 is a discount for a team that I think will hold TCU down. And TCU's defense is dreadful, so I never mind in a big spot like this betting against the team that has trouble tackling. And then later that day, we've got Georgia, we've got Ohio State. That line is at Georgia minus 6.5. That is pretty much where all of our experts make it. I think it's more of a toss-up than I think a lot of people indicate. There's a lot of talent on the Ohio State side of the ball. I don't love betting on Kirby Smart as a coach. I don't think he's the kind of reliable, he will cover every number kind of coach that Nick Saban is. when he has teams behind him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's more of a toss-up to me. I think over is probably a better play at 62.5. I see a lot of points in that game.
Hey, real quick, I got a Thursday night contest. Now we've got the red-hot Jaguars taking on the Jets. Jets faltered to the Lions. Jets are at 500. Jaguars, some type of a playoff race, and Trevor Lawrence has been fantastic. Real quick, the Jets are favored by a point, and that's it.
Yeah, the Jaguars still have an outside chance to win their lousy AFC South division. They're the hotter hand. For me, I don't think we spend a lot of time making stuff complicated. I don't think it has to be any more complicated than if Zach Wilson's starting, you can't bet the Jets.
There you go.
He's a loser, and losers lose. So I would take the Jags if Zach Wilson takes the field.
Matt, we'll talk again on Friday. Good stuff, buddy, okay?
Good luck, everybody.
Appreciate it. There you go. That's our buddy Matt Mitchell of the Action Network. Get a hold of him over on Twitter at Old Boy Uncle Mitch. He's brought to you by Potawatomi Hotel Casino, paysbig.com. They've got events. They've got headliners, free entertainment coming up on New Year's Eve. Stop down to Potawatomi Hotel Casino. We got more coming up right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, tonight on Monday Night Football, the Packers are finally back in action. They sit at 5-8 on the year and must be perfect in order for just a chance to get into the playoffs with 4 games remaining. Tonight, they have the Los Angeles Rams at Lambeau Field. Here's more from head coach Matt LaFleur.
We know that we have to take it one game at a time in order to have a shot and, just prepare the best that we can. That's all the things that you can control. You want to do the best of your ability to give you the best opportunity to go out there and play at your best level on Monday Night Football.
In Green Bay, it's expected to be about 20 degrees and dipping by kickoff. Also flurries in the air. Aaron Rodgers talks on their advantage in the weather.
Anytime the weather gets cold and the field gets cold, naturally guys don't move maybe at the same speed. We have the advantage. We know where we're going on a wet, cold field. Throwing the football has been an advantage for us in the weather as well. I can't put a specific finger on it.
Kickoff is tonight at 7:15.
Want to save even more at Fleet Farm? Well, now you can with Fleet Rewards. It's free to sign up, and there's no credit card required. Using Fleet Rewards is easy. Earn points every time you shop. Plus, get exclusive member offers, birthday and anniversary perks, free tire rotations, and more. Download the Fleet Farm app or create an account at fleetfarm.com/rewards to start earning points today. Fleet Farm, proudly serving the Midwest since 1955.
This weekend saw Wisconsin football add a significant piece to its quarterback room through the transfer portal. 4-star Oklahoma quarterback Nick Evers announced his commitment on Saturday. Up next for the Badgers, they'll take on Oklahoma State December 27th in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. And finally, the Milwaukee Bucks, coming off a 123-97 win over the Utah Jazz Saturday, are in New Orleans tonight to take on the Pelicans for a 7 o'clock tip. For the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network, I'm Ebo.
Good day. Welcome. Bill Michaels Show. Coming to you and having a good day so far on a Monday. What a wild weekend of football we had. The Cowboys getting knocked out by the Jaguars. The largest lead in NFL history gone as the Colts couldn't hold on up in Minnesota. You had the snowballs flying in Buffalo. I mean, what a wild weekend. Wild weekend of stuff going on. It was fun, though. It was a good time. Enjoyed it immensely. Immensely. What a good weekend of football. 877-867-1670. 877-867-1670. You want to find us? Go ahead and do it. We would love to talk to you. Again, 877-867-1670. One other note here, and we're going to talk about this coming up here in just a little bit. And I'll get into this a little bit more, but there was an article written in The Athletic, and we gave you snippets of it last week as we got to the end of the week. And then the full article came out, and we're going to have the author of this article coming out of The Athletic on. Kailyn Kaler is going to be joining us. But basically, it's called a really tough transition in Aaron Rodgers' offense. And it's signal meetings and Aaron Rodgers' little death stare, what it's like for Packers rookie receivers. And so we're gonna talk about this coming up here in a little bit. It is, if you've read the article, then you know where we'll go. But it is a tough. If you are a wide receiver coming into the Packers organization, it's already tough enough playing with a guy that is cerebrally up here. I mean, just on a different level. Okay, but then to be expected to be on that level. And if you're not, or he feels that you're not, to receive kind of the, and here to receive kind of the ire. I don't know how else to put it. It's just, you get into the doghouse. Okay. But let me ask you this. And this is for Packers fans. I want you to take a really good look at the circumstance. You got to take your passion out of this. Okay. You got to step back for a second. Because Greg Jennings left, had some things to say, people got pissed. Jermichael Finley left, had some things to say, people got pissed. Even Donald Driver early on had some things to say, people got pissed, and then Donald backed off. Donald knows. It's like, look, marketing-wise, this is suicide. I'm like a god in Wisconsin. I can go anywhere, do anything. I'm buying cousins. I'm doing softball stuff. I've got awards banquets. He rules the roost in Wisconsin. So he backed off of his original comments between Brett and Aaron. Okay. He backed off all of that. But it was said. I mean, it was out there. All right. So for these people that have come out, and other people have said things too, but for people that have come out and said things that didn't necessarily have the best light to shine on the quarterback and on leadership and such inside the walls of 1265, they were shunned. It's sour grapes. You're not here anymore. You're a Viking now, or you're not here. Screw you. That's the way it was looked at. But eventually you hear the same thing often enough. Eventually you got to go, is there something to this? Is it sound? Because one guy in one era to say something, and then another guy, and now you've got another guy in another era, and another guy in another era, and eventually you got to at least say, you know what? There's a little bit of, where there's smoke, there's at least a little bit of fire, right? And that's what this article kind of sheds light on. Is you need to do as I tell you to do. And I am going to quiz you in everything of life. And if you don't do what I want you to do, and it sounds like it's these discussions. We heard about the discussion of, oh, by the way, you don't believe in 9/11, do you? The conspiracy theories. Go read it. Instead of just being football. It's like, I'm here for football. I'm not here to be a part of your book club. I'm not here to be, your guest of honor over at your barbecues. I'm not here to, watch a movie with your girlfriend. I'm here to play football. So, but Rodgers wants you on this different level. He wants to be able to communicate with you in certain things. So sometimes it is a give and take. It has to happen in that particular sense, right? Sure, it does. But if it doesn't, is it fair to have that taken out on you? That, as they put it, the death stare. So it was just one of those things that we're going to talk about coming up here in a little bit. I think it is a fair look to where you can say, I'll take a look, and then I'm going to decide for myself behind closed doors, and then I'll let you know kind of, my thoughts and feelings and such on it. But it is, it's rather interesting. It's rather interesting.
Bill, I specifically enjoyed the fact that there was a Randall Cobb in there who clearly has had a lot of success and figured it out with Rodgers, right? For time and time again. There were also pieces with some of the receivers that did not work out, like Amari Rodgers, or those that were only here for a year and couldn't really stick.
It's basically the way I read this, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that on one hand, if you get on his good side, you are cerebral, you try to elevate yourself, you fall into his good graces. If you don't, and you're just there to play football and you do what you can, but maybe you're not on the same intellectual level, then he kind of shuns you, which to a certain extent, you have to ask yourself, how fair is that? Are you wasting a good talent because he just doesn't want to read your book or doesn't want to believe in the same philosophy you believe in when it comes to stuff away from the field? Or if it's this impromptu meeting of hand signals, yes, that's part of your job. But is he making it to where I'm going to know it? You have to come up to my level. And if you can't, I can't throw you the football. Are they making it so difficult that, and remember, Rodgers is the one that says, I think we need to simplify things. Is in essence, he making it so difficult that it's too difficult? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's the question. And I think it's only case by case. Like with
Right.
Amari Rodgers, I think it was clear that no matter what Rodgers was doing in terms of trying to get him up to speed, that just wasn't really going to work.
Right.
Where I'm not going to say Rodgers demanding a certain level is the reason he didn't work out here.
No,
but the play just wasn't good enough.
Right. But isn't it ironic that he leaves here and suddenly he starts becoming a target? Now, granted, it's Houston, but he starts to have minimal amounts of success in Houston.
Yeah, there's probably some freedom that comes with it.
Right.
Lack of pressure.
So well, maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's just more so the succumbing to pressure than it is anything else. But it's just interesting that, he leaves, and the next thing you know, very next week, we're reading about Amari Rodgers catching touchdown passes down in Houston, of all places. Not a quality quarterback, not a great guy, whatever, not a great team, but yet he's all of a sudden catching touchdown passes. Now, he's not doing it consistently and having these big, 10, 11 catch games. And it's not like he had this breakout season once he walked out the doors at 1265, but it certainly does say to you, some of these guys can play. Sometimes it's up to you to get them the ball. We've talked about that. It's like going back to the Chicago game. Randall Cobb's open. He's on the outside, wide open. I mean, stretches of yardage in front of him. And Rodgers, instead of just throwing him the ball, he tries to do this. Well, this is our rule of if you have open, territory, you take off. I'll throw it to you here and this and that. When Cobb's just standing there waving his arms like, throw me the ball. Just get it to me. And Rodgers tries to lead him way too much and just basically throws it out of bounds. And then they're looking at each other like, what the hell are you doing? And it's Rodgers thinking that you have to be on my cerebral level rather than just throwing the football. So that's kind of it, I guess, for lack of a better term. It's kind of it. But it's just this sheds a little more light on this. Might be the best way to put it. Sheds a little more light on this. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. And there you go. Sue says, even a blind squirrel finds a nut at times. Now, is it? That's immediately the reaction I was hoping for. Well, Rodgers is gone. Amari Rodgers stinks. Even a blind squirrel. Is it? How do you know? Maybe he just went to a system where they said, here you go. It's easy. It's receiving 101. Run the route. Get open. We'll hit you with the football. Rather than thinking about everything. One of the things that we've talked about in this particular, Green Bay circumstance is how long does it take guys to get on the same page with Rodgers, right? Got to get on the same page. How long does it take? Wait a minute. Why can other receivers go to other teams and immediately have impact? Why did Tyreek Hill have such an impact right away in Miami? Devontae didn't have to get on the same page with Derek Carr. Now, they kind of knew each other prior to, but it's not the same offense they were running when they were in college. That happened. Why do certain players just go into other certain circumstances, or receivers go onto other teams and suddenly just work? Why does it just work? Sometimes I think they spend a lot of time making it so complicated to almost on the field testing players that when it doesn't work, it's immediately written off as this guy doesn't know it. I can't trust him. When sometimes it's just get your playmakers the damn ball and let them go make plays. You know, that's it. Complicated fellas, you're absolutely right. He said Packer receivers, you're either in the circle of trust or you're not. And once you're out of that circle, you're out. And that's there's no getting back in. You're right. Certainly seems that way, doesn't it? 877-867-1670. Let's go to James. James, how you doing today, man? What's going on?
Hey, I'm doing okay, Bill. Hey, I just wanted to touch on, you were talking about some of the games over the weekend in the NFL. I don't know if you were watching any of the Buccaneers game against the Bengals at all, but you were?
Yeah.
I thought Tony Romo was just absolutely, in my opinion, slurping on the Buccaneers about, oh my God, they changed their offense, they're running motion, they're in rhythm, they're doing this, they're doing that. And I just thought he was slurping on them so much. And to me, he made one comment about Tom Brady too, about the fact that, oh, he doesn't have any diminished skills at all. Look at him fire that ball in there. Well, I agree. His arm strength, and he probably will always have that. I can probably call Brett Favre up right now and say, hey, Brett, can you come throw the football around? And he would be able to throw almost like he did back in his heyday. But to me, the thing that diminishes on guys like Tom Brady are the intangibles, like his footwork in the pocket, his foot speed. He never was a very fast guy.
Right.
But to me, he's even slower in the pocket now than he was before, which I think might have caused, as he moved up in the pocket that time and got hit and he fumbled, that might have caused the fumble there. Maybe in his heyday, he would have been able to be a step ahead of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think it's the intangible things that people don't talk about or whatever. And I think that's where his skills diminish more than his arm strength necessarily. I just wondered what your thoughts were about Tony Romo and his comments and Tom Brady.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for the phone call. Let's do this. I'll come back and I'll address that when we come back, because you bring up some good stuff that he had said yesterday. I agree with you. There were times where he kind of went overboard on the Tom Brady worship. But at the end, too, when Cincinnati came back in that game, they were all over Joe Burrow and, in a positive way, all over Joe Burrow and Cincinnati for what it is they were doing. And obviously, he did criticize the interception that Brady had, saying that was just a poor throw and shouldn't have thrown it. So I want to get into that as well. Let's do that. I'll kind of address it when we come back. Stay tuned. Got a whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up. This portion of the program brought to you by the Milwaukee Admirals. They are playing some good hockey. And if you want to see some hockey action, some AHL hockey action, and maybe the Stars of Tomorrow today on the ice down at the at the UWM Panther Arena, all you got to do is go to MilwaukeeAdmirals.com. That is MilwaukeeAdmirals.com. Whether it's single game tickets, group tickets, big old party, you want to go rent out the end zone, or you want to see some of the concerts and the promotional nights, go to MilwaukeeAdmirals.com. That's MilwaukeeAdmirals.com.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Gifts. We got to get gifts. The soup makers, the grillers, the kids, the breakfast connoisseurs, even the pets in our lives. Wait. Don't panic. There's one place to go. SchulzeFamilyBeef.com. They have gift boxes for all of those special people in your life. From little Bobby and Susie to Grillin' Gramps to your loving pups, there's a gift box category just waiting for you to click on it. The Schulze family has been spreading holiday cheer for 3 generations. And to get yours, go to Schulze, that's SCHOLZE, FamilyBeef.com. One of the worst things that you can hear, you have cancer. The worst is when you hear the words, your child has cancer. When a child is diagnosed with cancer, it changes their world. Sometimes they can't even do things that they really love, like playing soccer, riding a bike, going to prom, attending school. Children with cancer spend a lot of time away from others. Time in the hospital, treatments, tired, nauseous, and they feel isolated. That's where Special Spaces Wisconsin steps in. They provide these children with a special space where they can not only sleep, but they can play, they can heal, they can spend time away from the challenges of their illness. It's a customized bedroom designed just for them. How about a princess castle or pirate ship or a sports-themed bedroom? They transform that child's existing bedroom into a place that only he or she can imagine, a place for them just to be a kid. This effort is done with teams of dedicated volunteers and sponsors, just like our friends from Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin and all the community partners. If you'd like to find out more or to donate, go to specialspaces.org. That is specialspaces.org.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Now it's, we need to simplify.
Rein it in a little bit. Let's just simplify some things. The simplest plays are the best plays. Might be time to reel it back in a little bit and simplify some things. Simple mistakes. So we're making simple mistakes on complex plays. To me, the natural response is to simplify things even more.
I don't know what that means.
There you go. There you go. Simplify things. Got to make simple things simpler. Got to make things that are complicated more simple and such. And, well, you know how it goes. We've talked about it quite a bit. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Wisconsin Harley-Davidson. If you got a Harley-Davidson lover in your life and you've got a Christmas list and some gifts you have to get for them, stop out to Wisconsin Harley-Davidson. Go to wishd.com. That is wishd.com. wishd.com. They have everything from motor clothes to, they got a great big clearance room out there too with all kinds of stuff in it. You can get parts, accessories, you can get service work, get some things that are going to get on your docket ready for next riding season as well. But go to wishd.com. That is wishd.com and see for yourself everything that they have to offer. So immediately we bring this up and it gets, Randall says, seems like a hit piece to me. Why? This is the reaction. Anytime anything is ever said in even a remotely negative light about the team that's written about it or whatever, you immediately want to criticize it. Why? Is it not true? You don't know. Is it sour grapes? You can take it for what it is. Did you read it, or are you just saying it? But why immediately is it a hit piece? Why immediately is it clickbait? Why immediately is it dismissed? You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's 100% true, but what I cannot state or cannot stand is that anytime anything negative is said, that it's just all of a sudden dismissed as that's garbage. That's just simply not true. That it's just simply not true. You take it for what it is. Writers don't write lies. No writer sets out to write a piece that is full of lies. None, not one. There are writers who want to put things together as maybe clickbait. Maybe they need some click. Maybe their editor says, hey, let's do a piece on Rodgers because everybody's talking about Rodgers or Brady or whoever the flavor of the month is, or whoever the hottest topic is. There is that. But no, even then, no writer I have ever ran across in doing this in this business since 1992 has ever set out to print lies. Not one. Not one. I mean, you're going to get denials. You're going to get players that say, I never have. Because they're going to know. There's only certain people inside that room that are ever going to know. There's no way any of that gets out. But I don't know any person, any writer that's ever said, I'm going to do this. I'm out to do this, to smear this guy today. That's just, to smear a person because of what they know, maybe. Maybe they don't like that person, maybe. But I don't know of any. And here's the other thing. You know that if there's certain things you're going to say, you are going to take a boatload of ridicule for. You just have to do it. You just have to stick with it. Because, ultimately in the end, you're right. And what you're printing is right. The information you've gotten is right. What you've stated is right or correct. And haters are going to hate. That's fine. It's when the haters stop hating is that you were right. Because otherwise they jump on you tenfold. It's just like the whole thing on go back a couple of years when Jordan Love was drafted. And I heard what I heard coming out of Minnesota. I made a couple of calls, found it out. I had people inside the walls at 1265 and cover them on a daily basis calling me a liar. And then it turned out to be true. Not one of them ever called me back to say, man, sorry, you had it. No, you just got to know what you're saying is true. Just got to go with it and be right. And then think of why you're doing it. And everybody wants to know, behind the walls of 1265 and what goes on because they're so red China, right? 877-867-1670. Let's go to James listening to us in Green Bay. James, how you doing, man? What's going on? Let's go to Rod. Rod, how you doing today? What's happening?
Yeah, thanks for taking the call, guys. Just as the articles, the sentiment of the article, and as you're talking about now, Bill, I've been saying that for quite a few years that as he's not the team player that you really need to get over the hump in these recent playoff years, and that, to me, that's one of the biggest reasons why you're not seeing the team pull together as a team, because Rodgers expects you to play with him. He's not, to me, a total team player. He expects you to do what he wants you to do, and that play with Cobb, one of his best buddies, and a guy who 99% of the time is doing exactly what Rodgers expects him to, and the mental telepathy or whatever he's expected. And that way he's 10 yards away, wide open, and it's just throwing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You can lead him a little bit into the open space, but why lead him 5 more yards where you can? It's ridiculous.
Right.
And when you're seeing Rodgers tunnel vision on one guy, or that's part of that whole thing coming through where he doesn't trust anyone else, and it's part of that. It's all in his head, and he's a pretty heady guy. So to me, that what's contributing to his downfall in the bigger games and the playoff games and getting over the hump. Not $50 million. Yeah, it was $50 million. No, not about the money, but I guess it is about the money.
Yep. No, I completely agree with you and appreciate the phone call, Rod. By the way, we do have some breaking news regarding the Packers. It looks as if they have released Sammy Watkins. Nah, baby, nah to Sammy Watkins. Looks like they have cut Sammy Watkins loose. So there you go.
Couldn't figure out the hand signals.
Yeah, he couldn't figure out the Saturday hand signal meeting, and he was running right when they wanted him to go left, and yada, yada, yada. So it looks as if Sammy Watkins out. That experiment has come to an end, and which is good news because that means, Dobbs is back. You got Dobbs, you got Cobb, you got Watson, you got Lazard. You've got those guys. Samori Toure. There's 5 receivers for you. Everybody's back. So Sammy Watkins, the odd man out. And off you go. So there you have it. Sammy Watkins.
I'd rather have Toure out there anyway.
I would too. I like Samori Toure. He showed some glimpses. Quite honestly, he showed some glimpses. I didn't have a problem with Samori Toure. I really didn't. I liked some of the things that he had done. And I wanted to see him get more of an opportunity. Obviously, he got a little bit nicked up. And then with the emergence of Christian Watson and company, it just it took a little while, but I wanted to see some more of Samori Toure. Who knows? Maybe this class turns out to be an incredibly good class of wide receivers for the Green Bay Packers. So we'll see. But it's Sammy Watkins, no more. There you go. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. I do want to go back to, some of the things that were stated before the break. So I want to get back into that when we come back. Stay tuned. We got a whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Show. Don't forget, coming up after the top of the hour, we're going to talk about that article in The Athletic. The author is going to be joining us. We'll chat with her coming up just after the top. Stay tuned. Got a whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Show. It's all coming up right after this.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Whether or not the Packers head down to Florida. Good question. I guess it would just you probably have to get in touch with the airport and say, hey, what is the likelihood of us getting out on Thursday or Friday or Saturday afternoon like we normally would go? My guess would be no, but I don't know. That I don't know. 877-867-1670. 877-867-1670. Give us a shout. This one real quick. This is, hey, Bill, how is the best way to hear your show in Wausau? A couple of different ways. One is you can just download the app, WOZN, The Zone Madison, WOZN, The Zone. The other one, I guess, might be the best way to do it. You could always go through Marshfield. That's the next nearest station. There's one in Tomahawk, the Tomahawk station. I don't know if that bleeds all the way down into Wausau, but that's Tomahawk. Or right here, like you're paying attention to us on the Bud Light live stream. You can find us there. But there's many different ways. But if you go to WOZN, The Zone Madison, you can download the app on your phone, or you can listen to us, on the podcast kind of side of things. You can go to Apple iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. You can find us on iHeart. There's plenty of ways to find us, but the main way is just download the app in The Zone. So going back to our caller prior to that discussed Tony Romo talking about talking about Tom Brady and such, and about the skills diminishing. Tom Brady, that whole team looks slow. I even think they alluded to it during the broadcast. That whole team looks slow. There is the old saying that Father Time is undefeated, and you can drop off the table almost instantaneously. Brady is still a knowledgeable quarterback, but where his skills, in my opinion, have begun to diminish is you have this synapse between your brain and your reaction of how fast you do things. And Rodgers is so good. Brady is so good. Some of these guys are so good at it because they can read and react and move and complete the task in such a quick period of time, in such a split second of time. And where Brady is showing signs is that synapse has become a little longer. He looks a little slower. The throw is a little more looping. The arm strength is still there. He can still zip it in, but it's just slowed down a little bit. If you just watch Joe Burrow work versus watch Tom Brady work, it was just that quick. Joe Burrow hopping, stepping up in the pocket. The footwork was moving. It was quick. It was swift. Taking off and running when he had to. Just so many different things that he could do physically as a quarterback to propel his team versus Tom Brady. And Mike Evans looks slow. The team itself looks slower. They just look slower. So all of that, I agree. I agree with Tony Romo. Brady is still a good thrower. Brady is still a good quarterback. He has still mentally got it. If you put him on a team, say next year he decides to come back, which I can't imagine he will. But let's just say he does. Okay, let's say Brady decides to come back. If you put him on a fast team, he will still play well. He will still have that ability. But when the entire team around you slows down and you're slow, you don't have that way to elevate. That team just looked as if it got old. Just all of a sudden just got old. Like I said, I still think Brady can play. He just needs a younger, fortified team around him. That's all. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. But I will give Romo credit because even though it was a big, sloppy, wet kiss pretty much for the most part on the Tom Brady side of things, he did point out when Brady made the bad pass and the pick happened, he did point it out and say that bad pass, stupid pass, can't do that, can't turn the ball over there. And talked about, Joe Burrow and the Bengals and what they did all game around. But look, Cincinnati can't do what they did. If they allow a good team in the postseason to get up on them like that, chances are they're not going to come back and win that ball game. And Tom Brady going into that game yesterday, went up by 17 or more, was 89-0. He is now 89-1. He was 89-0 when leading by 17 points or more. He is now 89-1. Well, that's what I'm saying. What a wild weekend it was. It was just crazy. Just crazy. It was just such a wild weekend. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. You can find it. Our buddy Jimmy says, hey, Bill, do you think that the Green Bay Packers release of Sammy Watkins could spell playing time for some of the young guys, or is it a belief that the young guys have finally gotten up to speed and Aaron Rodgers can now trust them? That's probably more so. The latter is probably the better statement, is that, yeah, there's really no need now for the veteran Sammy Watkins. First of all, he's not the sharpest knife in the drawer, okay? He has lost his step. But you've got Lazard, you got Watson, you got Randall Cobb, you got Samori Toure, Romeo Doubs. Sammy Watkins is not needed right now. You probably needed a roster spot anyway, but he's not needed. You could bring somebody back off the practice squad that can fill the bill, that can kind of know it, be younger. Juwan Winfrey, Travis Fulgham, one of those guys, if you wanted to bring back Jeff Cotton, there's another one that's down there, I think, on the practice squad. I can't remember everybody that's down there, but you got some of those guys that are down there. If you had to, you can go in that direction. So you didn't need Sammy Watkins to really do much for you right now. Every now and then he was a decent downfield blocker. He'd run a route and catch one pass, but for the productivity you're getting out of him, why? Just move on. Get it over with. Get it over with. This is from Caleb, who says, what did you think of all the Brady comparison to Joe Burrow yesterday? It made me sick. Caleb, it's first of all, it's because they were matching up against one another, and Joe Burrow has had success. Early on in his career, he's taken his team to a Super Bowl. But Joe Burrow, I thought the answer that he gave Tony Romo and Jim Nantz was pretty solid when they were comparing him to Tom Brady. And he said, look, why? Because Tom Brady just got by doing it and playing quarterback. I don't do anything dynamic. I'm not a huge downfield passer. I'm not a fast runner like Jalen Hurts or Justin Fields. I'm not Patrick Mahomes and all the different arm angles and throwing the ball all over the place and tossing an underhand. And I don't do all of that. I just try to make the best reads and make plays. And that's it. And that's all Brady ever did. Brady got by doing that. If you're just solid fundamentally and you're able to step up, you're able to run a little bit, you're able to move and keep the chains moving, and you live to fight another day, and you're smart with the football, that's Tom Brady in a nutshell, and that's the reason Joe Burrow gets those accolades. But I think, to be honest with you, we're always searching for the next. Look at the NBA. Every time somebody came into the NBA that had any kind of prowess, they're the next Michael Jordan. They're the next Will Chamberlain. They're the next. You go through the next. They're the next whatever. So whatever the comparison was to that size of person and or their ball skills, Kobe was going to be the next Michael Jordan. Remember, so. I just think we're always looking for the next, somebody to glom onto. And it's also very much a sign of we build you up to tear you down to move on to the next icon, because we're always looking for the next. That's just the way it is. And Brady, much to his credit, has stuck around and done it at an incredibly high level for way longer than anybody ever thought he would. And he's been able to do it and do it at a winning pace. He's just been flat out incredible. No two ways about it. He just has been. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. If you want to find us, please feel free. Go ahead and do so. Again, 877-867-1670. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at New Mail Medical, treating guys with ED all over the state of Wisconsin, well beyond the borders as well. Listen up. If you have ED, 98% success rate they have. So you got it, or you're the partner of somebody that has it. 98% success rate. There's no reason not to call. Let's just say this time of year, you're getting ready to go shopping. You're waking up in the morning, and you're going to go, you know what? I just don't have the energy. I'm supposed to go to the gym. Don't want to do it. Don't want to get out of bed. Just want to sit on the couch. Could be low T. Got to get some more energy. Got to get some mojo, some movement. Get up, move. And they can help you do that. Or the all-in-one weight loss program. You're looking down. You're going, woof. Too much cake, cookies, pies, and everything else that's coming my way. Too many trips over the woods and through the hills and such to grandma's house. It's not sitting well. Why not make 2023 a brand new year for a new you? That's New Mail Medical. Call them 414-455-4451. That's 414-455-4451. Again, 414-455-4451. That's the New Mail Medical Center. Hang on, more coming up right after this.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Wisconsin isn't snobby, snooty, or pretentious. It's Midwestern charm at its finest. And that's exactly what Forgotten Fire Winery in Peshtigo is all about. Fun in a bottle without the attitude. You can find their full wine and cider lineup in their tasting room or in liquor and grocery stores throughout the state. The winery is a great place to get away for wine and cider tastings, great live music, and private events all year long. Remember, any time is a great time for Forgotten Fire wines and ciders. Wisconsin wine made from Wisconsin people.
Ho, 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 I need a window.
Baby, it's cold outside.
So where do I go? Ho,
Come on, Santa. Go to Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Now is the time to replace your leaky windows and doors. You and Mrs. Claus can get your new windows while putting no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 24 months. Unwrap this gift now, but pay for it 2 years later.
More jingle that stays in my pocket.
That's right, Santa. Plus, our elves install year-round and in as little as 1 day. Pella offers lines in luxurious wood to fiberglass and vinyl.
Why not make a New Year's resolution today?
That's the spirit, Santa.
Hella no, pay later.
Absolutely. Put no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 24 months. But you have to hurry. Offer ends December 31st. Schedule your free consultation today at PellaWI.com.
Sure, with the license for details.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Now, in Green Bay, here's Mike Clemens.
It's the Packers and the Rams tonight here at Lambeau Field. The Packers need to win their final 4 games to keep their playoff hopes alive. I asked Matt LaFleur if coming out of the bye, did he have at least one physical practice this weekend in pads to get his team ready for some contact tonight?
Yeah, we did. We had a padded practice yesterday. I thought the energy, the focus, attention to detail, everything was on point. I mean, it's never perfect. And so you go there and you review the practice, you watch it together, and you make the corrections, and hopefully we've got everything cleaned up.
The Rams have gone through 3 quarterbacks. How much will they have to adjust their offense for Baker Mayfield? Packers defensive coordinator Joe Barry.
You know, this year they've had to play with Matthew. They've had to play with Wofford. They've had to play with Bryce. You know, so I mean, they've had to do that. But, you know, I don't think they're going to completely scrap
what they've been doing. They're going to do some things that Baker might like that he's done in his past that's already implemented in their offense.
Baker Mayfield met with reporters at his locker and was asked how much of the Rams playbook has he been able to learn in the past week since he arrived from Carolina.
Where we're at right now, with there only being 4 games left, it's one thing to try and learn the base install as much as I can, but don't want to overflow it because really it's about learning the game plan.
Last year, Mayfield threw 4 interceptions when the Browns lost to the Packers here at Lambeau Field on Christmas Day. Jair Alexander was asked what he thought of that game-winning drive that Mayfield had to lead the Rams in that dramatic win over the Raiders on Thursday Night Football.
Baker did a good job managing that drive. You can tell with the offense now, it seems like Baker is, finding his way, trying to find his rhythm and his guys. With the game plan and preparation, should get like 7 interceptions,
You heard it, 7 interceptions. That's Packers defensive back Jair Alexander. In Green Bay, I'm Mike Clemens on the Bill Michaels Show.
I don't know that 7 interceptions are going to be possible, but I'm glad he's got that kind of optimism. Jair dropping the verbiage. Coming up, Kailyn Kaler of The Athletic. She's going to be on with us next. And just checking because she is the one that wrote the article in The Athletic over the weekend that talks about what it's like to be a receiver and having to work with Aaron Rodgers and the expectations that he has. So we'll get into that coming up. Tom says, looking at next year, will there still be a need for Allen Lazard? No. I mean, it depends on what your depth is, at your wideout position. You got to assume that Watson and Samari Toure and Romeo Doubs are there. Now, is it going to be, will they bring back Cobb? Cobb's not having a bad season. You just know that Cobb at some point is going to end up injured. Does Cobb come back for a lot less money? Just as that safety blanket and that guy for Aaron. And if so, then do they bring in somebody else, 2, 3 guys? Do they draft another wide receiver? Do they go out and find themselves another vet to fill the bill? I would assume you would. You got to get a tight end. That's the other thing. We've talked about that being underutilized. Do they go get a tight end? We'll get into all of that. David said, don't forget when Favre threw the 6 interceptions in the playoff game. Oh, I was there. I'll never forget that. That was down in St. Louis against the Rams. I'll never forget that. Packers came in with a head of steam, and it just was awful. It was painful to watch. 6 picks. It wasn't even a pick 6. It was 6 picks that Favre had in that game against St. Louis. Get that. It was awful. There after like the first 3, and you're going, what the hell am I here for? This is bad. This is bad. So, yeah, it's not good. Jay Quall says the quarterback for the 49ers runs the offense, isn't allowed to do whatever he wants to do. No, he runs the Shanahan offense. You're right. But there is no rookie or no young quarterback starts freelancing. What they have the ability to do is check out of a play they know is not going to work or call timeout. But Rodgers has stated again and again, and it's never been disputed by Matt LaFleur, where Rodgers has said, I don't make the calls. I like the calls, but I don't make the calls. He's not checking. A lot of you think that it'll be a play that's a pass play to the tight end. He's like, nah, F that. We're going to do an all-go route for Randall Cobb down the sideline instead. He's not doing that. You get a play that you can either pass to the tight end, pass to the second, or hand the ball off. And that play has a tree to it that you can go through that progression. He has that ability to either run it or pass it, but he's not just changing the plays, unless of course you get in the 2-minute drill, and then he's got that capability to run that offense. But yeah, it hasn't been there too much. Hey, listen, when we come back, going to talk about the article written in The Athletic this past weekend regarding Aaron Rodgers and what it's like to be a young receiver working with him. You're going to want to hear this. Stay tuned. Got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up right after this. That was written, I should say, about what it's like to be a receiver inside the walls at 1265 and working with Aaron Rodgers. Kailyn, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well, Bill. How are you?
I'm doing great. So, first of all, what brought this up? What brought an inside look into the walls of 1265 and what it's like to work with Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, I mean, two things. I think the early part of the season, literally the first play of the season, seeing how the season started with that drop by Christian Watson, and seeing Dobbs and both Watson struggle. Obviously, there were injuries involved there, but I just started noticing Aaron is having to rely on rookies this year in a way that he hasn't had to in the past when he had number one and number two receivers being very long tenured veterans. So this is kind of the first time that we saw him really having to incorporate rookie receivers in the offense. And I think the early part of the season showed us how hard that is. And obviously Watson missed camp, which didn't help with his development, but I thought there might be more to it. And then I was doing the story on another player, like completely unrelated to the Packers, but he had spent time with the Packers last season. And, he just mentioned offhand, like, oh, it was really hard to learn the signals in that offense. Like, it was really difficult because they're not really officially taught. And this player had gotten there mid-season, so he was not, he was trying to learn on the fly, having arrived in the middle of the season. So I just kind of filed that away, and I was like, oh, maybe that would explain why the transition, from afar appears to be so difficult. So then I started calling, former players who had recently been there, a couple guys who were cut from the practice squad this season or last spring, and then Rodgers and Kailyn Hill, who were obviously cut a couple, maybe it was just a month ago. I think it was in early November, when they were cut. And so I just started calling them to ask about, the process of learning those signals, just the process in general of learning the offense. And as a rookie, and how it's so much different and more complicated than obviously any college offense, which is what they're coming from. So yeah, I was really curious to see what their experience was like and how it is to be with a quarterback like Rodgers, who is so experienced, so detailed, so particular, and to be coming into that as a brand new NFL player, what that's like.
So let's start with the difficulty, because it seems like there are times when other receivers go to other teams and they just fit right in. They come in and they start catching passes, catching touchdowns. It's no big deal. And we talk about the difficulty for anybody, because I look at it this way. The Packers don't have time to start teaching guys how to do this and say, oh, over the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to get better. They need people now. If you're going to hang on to Rodgers for the next couple of years, you have to have people now. So if it's that difficult, aren't they then in essence kind of treading water, and really they're not getting to their goal because they're not putting the right people in the right place to make plays?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing now, Christian is obviously a lot more comfortable in this offense now. And the last month, I mean, the first sentence of my story was like, Christian Watson almost ruined the story idea. Because, he's really come into his own and emerged in the last month. But if you remember back to like mid-season, right before the trade deadline, Aaron was like begging for the team to make a move at receiver because Sammy Watkins was hurt, Cobb was hurt, the rookies were struggling. He was really urging to get a trade here. So, it's been a long season in Green Bay. And I think your point of, treading water, it's true because when they traded Devontae Adams, I don't know if they underestimated how long it would take or what the process would be like of incorporating a rookie or multiple rookie receivers into this offense and needing to rely on them in a way, as I mentioned earlier, that they really haven't had to before. But they still have a chance to make the playoffs, a very small chance. But I do think that the underestimation of, what it would take to get this offense to the strength that it was when it had Devontae Adams, I think that is a big reason as to why, it's like too late. It's like Christian Watson's development came too late. Romeo Doubs, the injuries are a part of this as well, because Doubs had been playing better right before he got hurt as well. So it's really just unfortunate timing. But, you're right. Like, typically receivers in the past, it was very rare for a receiver to come out as a rookie and be elite and be totally ready to go. But in the last few years, receivers are more prepared than ever coming from college to enter the NFL game. We've seen some really elite ones just kind of like take the NFL by storm. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. And obviously Christian Watson was not a first rounder, but, he's close. So I do think, my main takeaway from doing this story was like, it is harder to enter an offense where your quarterback has been around for so long and has developed such a particular way of doing things, because so much more is expected of you and there's so much little patience for you to learn it.
Do you think that the young guys have, they obviously look at Rodgers as a Hall of Famer and it's like, oh my God, I get a chance to play with Aaron Rodgers. But do you also think they look at it after a while like, he wants us to be at his level. We're not going to be. It's almost a deterrent. I've always said the best leaders are the ones that lower themselves to your level to raise you up rather than just sit up there and demand that they come up to your level.
Right. I totally agree with that. I think, and when I was talking to EQ St. Brown, he's in Chicago now. I live in Chicago, so I was at Bears Open Locker Room, and I was asking him basically that question, like, what is the difference between playing with Justin Fields, the second-year quarterback in Chicago, and playing with Aaron Rodgers, who was so experienced? And he said, in Chicago, he has more of a voice in the offense. He said Justin Fields is still learning things so he can communicate and have more conversations. I think his direct quote was, there's more conversation. And I think that conversation aspect is really important, especially for young players, so that they're not intimidated, so that they're not feeling like they're never going to measure up. But then you ask a player like Cobb that question, and he's like, well, do you want the ball? Like, what do you want? If you want the ball, you have to do it the way the quarterback wants it done. So, there's two sides to that argument, but I do think like the conversation, the dialogue is helpful for a rookie. And especially this year, as you mentioned, like, if you want a little bit more, I think there are ways that they could do that. I think, nobody I talked to was like, oh, Aaron Rodgers is harassing me. And like, it wasn't that at all. This was like hardly even a negative. A lot of people were saying this was a hit piece on Aaron Rodgers on Twitter. And I was like, I don't know what you guys are reading,
right?
Because like everybody was on the record. Like nobody was really saying anything that negative about him at all. It's just an inside glimpse as to how it's done and what's expected of you. And the fact of the matter is there's a lot expected of you. And I was just talking to a coach yesterday who had experience with Peyton Manning. And he was like, Peyton was very similar. Like there was very little patience, and the expectations were like, you need to know what you're doing right away. And as Sammy Watkins said, like, it's almost like there's two offenses. And he said, if you're not 100% up to date, you're not going to be playing well. Like you're not going to like hit that flow state in this offense, essentially.
Is that then almost detrimental to the offense, though? Here's my question. Because we see guys play with other quarterbacks, they get indoctrinated almost right away. And I keep going back to it. And I know Rodgers, I know guys like Brady, I know these guys. The argument is that Rodgers and Manning will only win one or two Super Bowls because their high level of expectation and their obstinance because of it has also made them almost, you can't play with them. There are certain guys that can't play with them because they don't have that ability to be as smart as them. So therefore, they have great talent, but they're just shunned. You're just, quote, in the doghouse. You get the death stare. It's almost becomes a detriment too, doesn't it?
I do. I think it does. I think it's not the most welcoming environment. And, as Amari Rodgers said, I think my exact question to him was like, what was the communication like with Aaron? Like, could anything have been better as far as the communication? The question was not, why were you fumbling? But like, that was not what I asked him. I asked him about the communication in the offense. And his answer was, Aaron didn't really talk to them about the young guys, about non-football things. I think he was very available to have conversations about the offense, which is great. But like, they didn't feel Amari's opinion, and Kailyn Hill backed this up, and so did Chris Blair, who was a practice squad receiver. Their opinion as young guys in the Aaron he has his veterans who he's friends with, and the younger really feel comfortable approaching him to talk about things and like to form a bond, which I think like and Randall Cobb was like, oh well, the team has 53 players. Like we're supposed to be friends with all 53 players. We're supposed to hang out with everybody outside of work. Obviously not. Like that's unrealistic. We all have coworkers that we are not friends with and that we don't really relate to on a personal level. But I think that's just part of the is now so much older, and they feel that gap very, very strongly, I think. And I think that's part of it here is just the ability to connect with each other is like, from what Amari and Kailyn said, is just not really there right now.
Talking with Kailyn Kaler of The Athletic, wrote the piece regarding Aaron Rodgers. Here's my question. Out of all of this, you take all this information, and I look at it, if I'm sitting in the walls at 1265, I'm thinking to myself, okay, This is not a rip piece, but this is a reality piece of what it's like behind closed doors. Do I then, with 2 years remaining on his contract, hand this to Aaron Rodgers and say, dude, you got to be more accessible. You got to be here. You got to be more welcoming. You got to help elevate these guys rather than saying, Cobb will coach him up and this and that. And I don't have to show up. I'm not going to do this. I won't do that. And then when I get there, I'll expect them to be on my level. Is this the reality piece for Rodgers or for anybody coming into the system saying you're going to have a really difficult time with it if you don't make friends with this guy and go talk to him?
I mean, I think it would be helpful for players entering this offense to read this, but the reality is I think Aaron pretty much runs the show in Green Bay. So I don't know that, like, you know, who knows if he'll read this story? Who knows? I'm sure people in this building have read it, but will it actually lead to any conversation with him? I have no idea, because my impression is that, you know, he's kind of in charge there. So I don't know that, like, he'll change his ways at all. And, like, you know, I mean, there are conflicting opinions out there. Like, I think Dobbs and Watson have said, you know, he is approachable, like, during camp and saying nice things about him. And he said nice things about them as well. So, you know, it's hard to know exactly what's going on. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know that. I mean, I think everyone should learn something from this. I think there's a lot of helpful takeaways, but I don't know that anybody will. And I think your point earlier was interesting because, like, obviously when I'm reporting this, I'm only looking at Aaron and I'm only looking at Green Bay. But I think if you did the same story on Tom Brady, it would probably be very similar because, you know, New England never really had a ton of success with highly drafted receivers either. There weren't many of them with Brady that really panned out. So I think there is probably something to be said just in general. A truth of the matter is that it's just so much tougher for a rookie to enter a situation with an elite quarterback. And I think most of the time you'd think, oh, well, that's probably the best situation for them because they're going to play with someone who's really, really good. And I think that's like the common sense part. But when you look at it on the other side, like it is almost like the expectations are too high. So that's really all I intended to do with this story is just kind of like ask the question of like, are the expectations too high?
Right.
And there's not going to be one answer to that. You know, everyone can kind of develop their own opinion on that. And each player is going to have a different opinion on that too.
Kailyn, good stuff. Really appreciate the article, and I'll repost it so people can take a read too, okay?
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks so much. There you go. Kailyn Kaler of The Athletic, and she has written the piece regarding Aaron Rodgers. And I want to get your reaction to that because I find this incredibly interesting. It's basically a piece out of The Athletic. If you haven't seen it, it's called Signal Meetings and Aaron Rodgers' Little Death Stare, What It's Like for Packers Rookie Receivers. And it seems via the headline like it's a rip piece, but it's not. It's a really honest look at whether or not you as a receiver have that ability to get on the same page with the quarterback and the quarterback I've always said this, and this was grained into my head years ago that great leaders, first of all, they have the ability to delegate, allow people to do what they do best. Secondly, they lower themselves to elevate. They don't expect you to rise up to meet their needs. They lower themselves to elevate you. To elevate, it's like the high tide raises all ships, but you got to get the water under the ship first. You know, you can't just have the water outside, the ship sitting on dry ground saying you got to get higher because it ain't going to happen. You got to elevate. And it's a really good insight into guys like Rodgers that are aging. I see Brady's a different cat. You don't hear about Rodgers gathering guys and putting them on high school fields and, you know, doing all that kind of stuff. I think there's a similarity there. Absolutely. But one of the things that was brought up to me a while ago, and this was maybe a couple of years, when you look at the end of Peyton Manning's career and you look at, Aaron Rodgers and you look at some of these guys that have been great, but they haven't won numerous Super Bowls. Now, Brady obviously ran into the buzzsaw Manning was obviously the guy that ran into the buzzsaw that was Brady. So that's kind of tough. You know, it's like guys that didn't win championships when Michael Jordan was at his peak. It just, ran into Jordan. But when you look at their demand and their knowledge and their level, and they expect you to be on that level, the question is, do they lower themselves to help you to get to that level? Or do they just demand you get there? And when you're not, they give you the death stare. It's like you're not going to be there. And we're We're never going to be on the same page. I can't work with you. You got to go. You don't get it. That's because there's a lot of good quarterbacks and a lot of good receivers that you may not be able to work together if you're on two different levels and just don't have that ability to connect. So it's a really interesting piece. Let's do this. We're going to step out. We're going to take a quick break. Hey, our friends down there, excuse me, in Franklin, Wisconsin, they have the Lux Golf Bays. Lux Golf Bays. LuxGolfBays.com. That's LuxGolfBays.com. But they have the Enchanted North Pole going on right now. Now, they've got tons of bays. They're heated. Even this time of year, yeah, with the cold weather and the snow coming and stuff, you can still hit some balls. Okay. But you want to go to the Enchanted North Pole, you want to see Santa, you want to take the kids, you want to do some cocoa. It's all the way up through the 24th, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all the way through. You want to do all that this weekend, they have it. And they've got it going on right now down at Lux Golf Bays. Go to luxgolfbays.com. It's located in Franklin, Wisconsin. That's luxgolfbays.com. That's luxgolfbays.com or enchantednorthpole.com. Enchantednorthpole.com. And you can stop down there with the kids, enjoy some of the holiday because your shopping's done, right? Sure it is. Go to luxgolfbays.com and make your reservations now or enchantednorthpole.com. That's enchantednorthpole.com.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
show. Enjoying the day. Hey, our friends at the Four Seasons Island Resort. If you have not checked it out yet, they have a terrific New Year's Eve party coming up. They have also got the Chocolate Festival coming up in January. Numerous things happening. That's the Four Seasons Island Resort, Pembine, Wisconsin. Get a hold of our girl Barb, B-A-R-B, Barb at thefourseasonswisconsin.com. That's Barb at thefourseasonswisconsin.com. Just call 715-324-5800, 715-324-5800. And when you do, make sure you tell them for the code, Bill Michaels 15. Bill Michaels 15, you get 15% off your stay. Is what they're going to do. But get a hold of Barb. Just call us, 715-324-5800. I want to come up for the Chocolate Festival. I want to come up for New Year's Eve. I want to bring the kids. I had somebody email me and say, hey, what's there to do up there in the summertime? You have golf, you have tennis, you have the pontoon boats that you can rent for fishing, kayaking. You can go see the waterfalls and the waterfall tour. They have UTV and ATV trails up there. I mean, they have so much. So whatever you want to do, you can do. Just sit there and do nothing. Enjoy it. They got an indoor ice cream parlor there. They've got really nice lounge, laser restaurant, Boundary Water Sports Bar and Grill downstairs. So much. And you're only going for a 2 day thing, really. Unless you take vacation, then you go up or go to DC or go down to Mexico or the winery, whatever. So much to do. Check it out. thefourseasonswisconsin.com. That's the Four Seasons Island Resort up there in Pembine, Wisconsin. So here's the question. And Ben, you said that stood out to you that Rodgers runs the show, right?
I believe the direct quote Kailyn said was, it seems like he's kind of in charge there.
Okay, so which you would assume with the offense and being the quarterback that most quarterbacks and offenses are. But so did you take that as a derogatory? Like, oh, geez, Rodgers is in charge and you got to, it's mandated, whatever Rodgers wants, Rodgers gets, that type of thing? Or do you take it as Rodgers is really the one that's got kind of the hold around the offense?
It goes back to me, a conversation we've been having really since he came back. And when the struggles started on offense this year, where not just in terms of running the show offensively, but kind of almost being bigger than the organization at times. Right. And I mean, he is a tremendous player, one of the greatest ever. And I'm not going to doubt whether it could work. Like, I think it can. It's just the question of whether it's healthy long term, where if there's somebody in the building that is bigger than the organization, whether that works. Because the only guy I can name that has felt like that has been Tom Brady. But even so, he was under Belichick, and you still felt like it was the Patriots. And then he did it in Tampa, and it hasn't been as sustainable.
You now in Tampa also, he's been older. It's not as sustainable. I mean, then again, he's only been there, 3 years? His first year they went to a Super Bowl. Second year they got knocked off last year, and then this year has been a kind of a failure. But the first year they went to the Super Bowl and won it. Last year they got beat, and then this year has been somewhat of an ugly kind of failure for them. I mean, that whole team just got old before our very eyes. Right? He's only played there 3 years. This is his third season. So, and he's 45 years old. So to say that the experiment's kind of, no, to go down to take a new system, new players, new guys around him, and all he did was bring Gronk with him to say, I'm bringing my safety blanket, but beyond that, we're good to get him. And then do you needing guys to be on the same page with him and go through his hand signal classes on Saturday and such? Do you think he goes anywhere else and wins right away?
I think he could if he's surrounded by like the talent Brady was surrounded with in Tampa.
You just wonder if it's chicken or the egg. Now, is Christian Watson going to be that kind of talent? We don't know. I still think they need to bring in another player or two to help him next year. But I think Rodgers is better than Brady. I think Rodgers is as smart as Brady. I think talent-wise, he's got as much. I couldn't help but going back to that conversation when you talk about Peyton Manning and Aaron Rodgers. Brady's had the success. Rodgers and Manning's got 2 with 2 different teams. He's been to 3 Super Bowls, 3 or 4. And Rodgers has been to 1. For guys that have been that good, that smart, that successful, but not to have rings,
even with Favre to a certain extent, but those two guys are considered the most cerebral in the game. Why? Why do they not have more rings? You know what I mean? It's like they've almost been too smart, too good for their own good, rather than just saying, I'm going to work with what I got. Because, other than the Randy Moss deal, the Patriots never had these unbelievably dynamic wideouts. They usually had some pretty good tight ends. They had some good-handed receivers and Brady and the ability to run the football. They were kind of a balanced team. But he never had, Devonta Adams on a consistent basis. He had Randy Moss for a short period of time during the undefeated season. He really shined. But beyond that, they didn't have this dynamic threat continuously, did they? Am I missing something here?
No,
it didn't seem that way.
Yeah, well, they were always built around the tight ends and running backs.
Right.
I guess the question is, what else could be done to make it better here? And that's why I come back to what you said last hour, maybe at the start of the show, where you wonder if more time together with the guys could have helped negate some of these feelings.
I will say this, it couldn't have hurt. And that's the thing is, could it have helped? Of course it could have. Could it have hurt? No. Wouldn't have hurt. Now, would it have been exactly the same? That we don't know. But I know one thing, it wouldn't have hurt. And that's why this whole thing of why I don't need to do this and I don't need to do, when you start making the excuses of I don't need to do this, I don't need to put in the work, well, it's not just, I've said this before, and I'm not harping on this, but it's not just about you. It's about if you want guys to be on the same page with you, then it is about you. It's one thing to have other people say, look at the film and look what he does and how he looks at life. But it's another thing to get to know you, to see if you have the same mindset about stuff. And I think that's a very fair assessment of what needs to happen, what leadership needs to happen. And, again, Rodgers, everything he's gotten, he's deserved, without a doubt. But you got a few years left. Don't coast. If I have anything not take away what it is we do on a daily basis, take that away. If I have anything as a fan to say to Aaron Rodgers, don't coast. Don't coast. Don't say Cobby's going to coach him up or let Matt do this, or don't coast. It's all. It's everything's in. It's all the cards to the middle of the table, because you only got a few years left and then you're done. Don't coast. That would be my recommendation. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Hey, our friends at the Nice Ash, theniceash.com. Went down there this past weekend. I was saying just earlier today in the program. Stopped by there on, I think it was Saturday night. Saturday night it was, as a matter of fact. Had a terrific time, and it was just a lot of fun. We had a really good time down there, enjoyed ourselves, and the Nice Ash is just so cool. Just such a nice place. Always fun, always great to go to. So if you're going to do anything, if you're going to go someplace downtown Waukesha, check out our friends at the Nice Ash, theniceash.com. That's theniceash.com. And you can stop on in and see for yourself what it is they're all about. I love the Nice Ash. So if you get a chance, head down that direction. That's theniceash.com. That's theniceash.com. Nice Ash, downtown Main Street in Waukesha. Stop in and see for yourself. Stay tuned. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up right after this.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket, this is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
From our friends at Forgotten Fire Wine. Man, I love that kind of bar game on Thursday night. Watched the Cowboys game on Saturday. Had a little whiskey at the Union House down in Tennessee. Really nice. Nice whiskey tasting and Bud Light. And then after that, finish dinner and maybe get a few things afterwards. Have a good time. If you're going to do the wines, though, let our friends at Forgotten Fire Wine
Get to the phone calls. Let's go to Mike listening to us in Cudahy. Mike, how you doing today, man? What's going on?
Hey, how's it looking today?
Today it is good, and today we got football. We know that the Great White Death is on its way later this week, so get out and enjoy the stuff.
Well, that's the thing. When you're born and raised in Wisconsin, I don't see how we have so many accents. People are born and raised. And it's not like we live in Texas and we have that one time in 100-year snowstorm.
Right. Yep.
Okay, getting back to the on point here. With Rodgers, I'm not telling like the way I see it. I generally like to watch what people do and not listen to what they're supposed to do. There's two different things here. When actions do speak, I've called before about this. Just for me to put in just for a minute. Rodgers never went to the OTA to develop whatever you want to call it across his situation. And you're rookie, okay? You can't substitute a seasoned veteran with Adam. Because, he was developed with the team. He had a chance to learn the system. In fact, I remember, and you probably remember this too, where in the first few years, people wanted Adams gone. He was dropping balls, wasn't running the right route. And people have short memories in the beginning with Adams. So here you go. You can't substitute Adams with 2 or 3 rookies that are green, put them in the fire, and expect equal or greater results with Adams gone. Okay? Rodgers needs to really have some confidence and trust in his receivers, and because he didn't go to OTA for whatever reason, that didn't help him either. But if you remember, too, 80% of the offense, the plays were centered around Adams, too.
Mm-hmm.
So when that security blanket left, Rodgers, he had Cobb, but Cobb is way beyond his good years. So I would say Rodgers had 2 security blankets. He had Nelson and Cobb.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I look at it, when Rodgers asked for $50 million, you give him $50 million. You got some dead cap money in your pocket. You knew that was. It's got all this money tied up for the Rodgers. You know what they're doing with the Packers organization? They're saying, look, you wanted this money. Well, we can't afford the receiver that you want. Like you said before, Bill, you got to work with what you got. But Rodgers has to be patient. He's not a good teacher. He's not giving the rookies a lot of confidence. That first play, first game of the year when Watkins dropped that pass, it was a sure pass, touchdown.
Right.
You can't, that doesn't give a lot of confidence to a rookie. Look, a lot of give you a beat down. And it's like, come on, we took a page out of Favre's book, being a diva. The only smart thing Rodgers did that Favre didn't do is he got them by the you-know-what because of the money tie-up. So, yeah, you can't expect to get receivers when you got all your money tied up in 2 or 3 players.
Mm-hmm.
That it just won't work.
No, I agree with that. 100% I agree with that. I look at Rodgers over the last 2 years now, coming up on these last 2 years of you if this is what you want to do and you're going to be here and you're going to be all in and you believe that these last 2 seasons are going to be this season to go for it in Green Bay to get yourself to the Super Bowl, I think you got to be all in. You can't be off doing other things. I understand he's earned that right. He knows it, but damn it, you got to get on the same page with these guys. Doesn't matter if they're in their second year or not. You got to get on the same page with these guys. And you got to get things right with the wide receivers, the offense, the guys around you. Because I think there's going to be more than a few faces that are going to be changed on this offense.
Can I just say one more thing before we leave? If you count all the times between Favre and Rodgers being with the Packers, would it be safe to say that we have missed a legitimate 5 to 7 trips to possible Super Bowls that they blew along the way? 7.
Yeah, you probably could because you would look at the game that they threw the errant pass against New York. That should have been a trip to a Super Bowl. 2014 certainly should have been a trip to the Super Bowl. The game they lost against Tampa Bay, they should have won and should have had a trip to a Super Bowl. So yeah, you could probably say it should have been at least 3 more times.
5 at least. In fact, I thought after that Seattle debacle, the whole coaching staff, I thought they should have gotten fired for blowing that. I mean, there was everything that could go wrong went wrong in the last 5 minutes.
Right. No, that that was just a conglomeration of crap between and you can't blame the coaching staff for Bostic going up to get that ball. Sean Slocum was screaming at him, "Don't touch it, don't touch it, don't touch it," even before the kick went off, to say, "Jordy's behind you, don't touch it." He still went up and got it for whatever reason. Why did Julius Peppers tell Morgan Burnett to go down? That's not coaching either. But he did. He had all kinds of field in front of him. He could have gone in to score. Some of those things I don't blame on coaching, but it was a calamity of just dumb errors. Micah Hyde not knowing to be on a two-point conversion that gave that up. Just so many different things that were stupid, and I never understood why.
Well, hopefully after this season, Bill, if we do, and that's another subject for another day, Love. I would not get rid of him because we developed him. Why let him go? Who are we going to have to back up Rodgers if we let Love go? That's another subject.
Right. No. Excuse me. I understand that. My question is, when it comes to Jordan Love, if you're not going to play him and you can get more for him and you're all in, you might. Now, if they keep Rodgers more than next year, then you got to make a decision because you can't afford to pay Love 20-something million the following year and then plus pay Aaron Rodgers 50-something million, and you got 75 million wrapped up in quarterbacks. You can't do that. But if Jordan Love says, okay, I'll come back next year, then we'll take the big contract, whatever. The Packers have that leverage. They keep him at a low minimum, and then Rodgers only comes back for 1 more year. Then you can hang on to him. But if you're going to keep Rodgers for more than that, then chances are you're probably not going to hang on to Jordan Love.
There's not enough history, though, Bill, to deal Love to get what they want. It would be pie on the Packers' face to let him go after all the stuff they went through to get him and develop him.
Yeah, but if you can develop the guy and then still get another, say, 2nd-round draft choice for him, get what you got out of him. Yeah, I think that you're still going to see Jordan Love play at the end of the year, and you're going to have a determining factor as to whether or not he's good or he's not. That to me, that's what you're going to be looking at. You're going to appreciate the phone call. You're going to figure out by the end of this season, are those 2 series that you saw him play against Philadelphia, is that real? Or did he just have a couple of good series and then go back to what we saw against Kansas City and go back to what we saw in the second half of the game against Detroit? And then you'll figure it out. Okay, then you'll figure out what Jordan Love has. There's a lot of unknowns regarding the offseason. Gutekunst alluded to the fact that good left tackles are hard to find. If that's the case, is he alluding to the fact that they're going to keep David Bakhtiari, which would mean you would almost have to restructure his deal, right? Because when he's played well. But it's been a calamity of issues. It's been the coming back from the knee, and then when he finally starts to get good, then he has an appendicitis. Then he's got to go down for a few weeks with that. And it's just been one thing after the other. You know what I mean? So do you keep him or not? That's another question they got to ask themselves. 877-867-1670. Hit us up. Got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Ho, ho, ho! I need a window.
Baby, it's cold outside.
So where do I go? Ho, ho.
Come on, Santa. Go to Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Now is the time to replace your leaky windows and doors. You and Mrs. Claus can get your new windows while putting no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 24 months. Unwrap this gift now, but pay for it 2 years later.
More jingle that stays in my pocket.
That's right, Santa. Plus, our elves install year-round and in as little as 1 day. Pella offers lines in luxurious wood to fiberglass and vinyl.
Why not make a New Year's resolution today?
That's the spirit, Santa.
Hella no, pay later.
Absolutely. Put no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 24 months. But you have to hurry. Offer ends December 31st. Schedule your free consultation today at PellaWI.com.
For details.
This December, it's a cash avalanche at Potawatomi. Saturdays, you could get buried in up to 10 grand cash. Plus, all the unclaimed prizes snowball into a huge cash jackpot at the end of the month. Just play with your club card for a chance to win. Sure, presents are nice, but nothing beats cold, hard cash. Only at Potawatomi Hotel and Casino. More info at paysbig.com/cold cash. Must be 21 years old to play.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Now, in Green Bay, here's Mike Clemens.
It's the Rams and the Packers. Tonight at 7:15 here at Lambeau Field. Aaron Jones is in his 6th season with the Packers. So far, he has 4 touchdown receptions this season, but only 2 rushing TDs. Is the cold weather an advantage for running backs?
It is. December football in Lambeau, there's nothing like it. Cold. And I feel like guys think about it when they're coming down to tackle. It hurts them too to tackle and hit that ground, so they think about it a little bit more. Just that's all I need is a second of you thinking, and I'm out of there.
The Rams come into the game with several key players out with injuries. Head coach Sean McVay.
From a game status, Brian Allen will be questionable. Marquise Copeland will be out. Aaron Donald will be out. Traven Howard will be out. David Long will be out. And John Wofford will be out.
Rams defensive back Jalen Ramsey says it's hard to replace guys like Aaron Donald dealing with an ankle injury, quarterback Matthew Stafford, wide receiver Cooper Kupp.
Some boys you just can't feel, right? And that's just the reality of it. Like, ain't nobody be AD, can't nobody be Stafford, can't nobody be Cooper Kupp around here. And we ain't even asking for that. I'm staying strong for them, and I'm pushing through it, and I'm working hard, and I'm doing all the things that I just named so that they can see me doing that by example and when I'm with all of them. So I'm going through the same things that they going through.
The Packers' Christian Watson has caught 8 touchdowns the past 4 games. How does the rookie receiver plan to deal with a trash talker like Jalen Ramsey while catching passes in the cold?
My number one objective is to get warm and stay warm. I think once you get moving around, it's not bad. But just try not to think about it as much as you can. Just play ball. And obviously, I know he's going to talk a lot. I know he's going to be, pretty chippy. But, I'm just going to do me.
That's Packers wide receiver Christian Watson. In Green Bay, I'm Mike Clemens on the Bill Michaels Show.
As they say. You bet. I've known Andy for years. Good guy, and I've even gotten some stuff from them. So absolutely. Check out canejewelry.com. Coming up after the top of the hour, Mike Clemens with Kingsley Enagbare. And a really neat story. So you're going to want to hear it coming up here in about 7 minutes. So stay tuned for that, okay? Just hang in there. We're going to get to it. We got about 3 minutes till the top of the hour. And after that, we got Mike Clemens with Kingsley Enagbare, and then we're going to have Mike Clemens with us the rest of the way, so stay tuned. Let's get to our guy, Gerard, listening to us in Delaware. Gerard, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, Bill. I always felt they played tight. I think that has been brought up. And all the games, now think about it, the Super Bowl year, they were beat up, they were injured, the whole bit, so they were playing on the road. So basically, they always look like underdogs. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But in the other games, even the Seattle game, they didn't go for the jugular. They didn't go for the kill shot.
Right.
They didn't do that. And in every other game, not only Rodgers. Now, Rodgers is the pretentious guy. He's not a bad guy, but he's pretentious, and he comes off in different ways. But as far as the being tight, who's the common denominator? That's always been there. Okay? It's Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm just going by this. McCarthy was terrible in clock management, awful.
Right.
Okay, and this coach to me, he's tight. He's tight 24 hours a day. This guy. Okay, and it's only going to get worse now.
Right.
Because of the past expectations. So think of all the games that they just lost, the big games that they just lost. He was there. Now, if you watched, let me get this real quick. If you watched the Raider game yesterday, the announcer said, look at how Carr is doing now, being that he's not throwing the ball only to Adams. He's spreading it around. That's what made their comeback. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, look what he did. How many times did he focus on Adams and not throw it to other guys? This is a big ball of wax. I don't think they're going to trade him, but I would after this season because you could get still a ton from him. And there's probably 10 teams looking for quarterback.
Right.
So my is play tight big games. There's no come on, just prove it.
When they get punched in the mouth, they don't play tight until they get punched in the mouth, and then they don't have a response.
Right.
That's the biggest thing that's disappointing about this team is that we've seen it time and again where they can just run all over teams and they get that 2-score lead and it's lights out. But if they get punched in the mouth or there's adversity and suddenly there's a turnover, go back to when Aaron Jones fumbled, Mercedes Lewis last year fumbled. They had no answer after that. After they got off to a rolling start after that,
absolutely
nothing after that. It was like they just tightened up.
Whose fault is that?
That's a head coach.
Whose fault is that?
That's a head coach.
And it's not the quarterback going up. Look, he's not a rah-rah guy.
No.
He's a defensive guy. You know what I mean? As far as
yeah, he's a do as I say, not as I do, and the only time he ever see an emotion is when he's pissed off at something, or he throws a touchdown, he gives you the fist bump. Gerard, I got to run here. Appreciate it at the top of the hour. No, I agree, and I've said this before. That to me is coaching. You had, much like you saw with yesterday, you saw it happen with Mike McCarthy's guys in the Dallas Cowboys. You saw it happen with Jeff Saturday's guys in the Indianapolis Colts. You saw it happen with Miami. They kind of knew they were going to lose that game. We saw it over the weekend with that on display where coaches just go, let's do this. We believe. Let's go. We've seen it happen. Coming up next, Kingsley Enagbare of the Green Bay Packers. A really, really interesting interview with Mike Clemens, and then Mike Clemens the final hour. Stay tuned. Whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Show next. Welcome back to the program, the Bill Michaels Show on the air, and we are glad you're with us in the final hour, taking you right up until, 2 o'clock Central. And then after that, don't forget, coming up later on tonight, we've got the Rams in town taking on the Packers. But after the game, we got the Green and Gold postgame show. And the Green and Gold postgame show is brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, which you can pick up if you're going to do a little tailgating tonight on your way, a quick trip. Stop up to Quick Trip anywhere in the state. Head on up to Lambeau Field. Enjoy some of your tailgate fare, Bud Light in hand. And don't forget, they got the Quickmas days going on right now, giving away stuff each and every day. Just over the weekend, stopped up, and they had Red Bull breakfast sandwiches. You got 20 cents off a gallon of gas. It was fantastic. Filled up the car. Good stuff. They run specials like that all the time. You just got to check it. You can check the coupons at the pump, or you can see some of the coupons inside the store. And it was awesome. I ended up getting gas for, I think it was $2.29. So $2.39. So it was great. Great weekend. Filled up the car. It was about time. Yeah, got a little bit back in that. And don't forget, also listen tonight. You could be the recipient of the opening drive contest. They're proud supporters of Packer football as well. So a lot of good stuff coming up from our friends at Quick Trip. Kingsley Enagbare. Sat down and had a chance to talk with Mike Clemens a little while ago. It was good stuff. And if you haven't heard it yet, Mike Clemens sitting down, chatting with Kingsley Enagbare. Take a listen.
How are you?
Oh, yeah, I'm good. How are you?
End of the Bears game. You guys are really starting to fly around. Got to be very competitive. I think you guys could feel a win there, and your offense is putting some points up. And then I see 55 has to come off the field, and you're on the bench. Your knee got hurt, or what happened?
Yeah, a little bang play. I mean, ultimately, I guess I'm fine. Bye week definitely took care of all of it. So, so I definitely feel better this week.
Timing of the bye was perfect, right?
Oh man, perfect. Definitely needed it. Definitely, I feel like pretty much everyone needed it to get their little mental reset and body reset. So,
This is Kingsley Enagbare, but everybody calls him JJ. Where did JJ come from?
a little cartoon show, JJ the Jet Plane. I guess Mama said that was my favorite show, and it kind of just stuck with me.
Told us that during draft. Yeah. Okay. I think the guy who was having the best season on your defense suddenly gets a no contact knee injury, an ACL, in Rashawn Gary. And things have evolved, and you're the guy opposite of Preston Smith at that outside linebacker spot. And, you know, it's not being talked about because I think you're filling the role. How do you feel how you've done so far?
I feel like it's pretty much happens up and down, and I'm just trying to learn each week. And just gain and get better each week. Just learning from my mistakes and continue to build on the things that my positive things, and just stacking the good, delete the bad. I've pretty much been saying that all year, and just gotta live through that for throughout my career.
So JJ, if you're standing up on the right hand side and just before the snap, are you looking at Preston? Are you looking at Dean Lowry down on the line? I mean, or your eyes are on the quarterback? Where are your eyes just before the snap?
Just depending on the play, depending on what's the offense is giving me, the offensive formations kind of determines what kind of look at pre-snap. But it's like you said, it's also like communication belong to the defensive line. That depends on the call. So like I might have to look over there to see what piece is about to give me, or look at Dean, the D tackle that's next to me, to see what he's about to work or whatever, stuff like that. So the communication eyes definitely pre-snap is a big part of the game.
You guys have faced really mobile quarterbacks. Do you consider Baker a mobile quarterback or more of a pocket passer?
A little pocket passer. I mean, he's mobile enough to get out the pocket and do a little some if the opportunity arise. But we don't think that's his go-to. He ideally wants to be a pocket passer and stay in the pocket and make whatever throw he feel like he can make. But yeah, I mean, he's mobile enough to scramble, but I don't think that's his go-to.
With JJ Enagbare, outside linebacker, you're from the Atlanta, Georgia area. Georgia, Florida, Texas. I mean, high school football is big business there. And great stadiums, great programs. Matter of fact, when I was a kid, I was in high school playing football in Georgia, and I came here to Green Bay. It was a long time ago. But like some of my high school had better weight equipment than the Green Bay Packers did back at that time. You, though, I looked up and I found a story written about your schools. Is it Hapeville Academy?
Yeah, Hapeville Career Charter Academy.
It's a tough school. I mean, I imagine it's good teachers and good folks, but you guys didn't really have a football field.
Yeah, nah. So pretty much, my high school career, I started at a 7A school. So pretty much that was one of the schools, like you mentioned, had the facilities, had the field, had the practice squad or practice fields and stuff like that. The stadiums, the whole nine, the support of the school, the whole nine, like funding. Then my senior year, I ended up transferring to a smaller, like 2A school. So our practice field was pretty much some grass, extra grass.
A couple of tires, big old tires.
So basically extra grass that was on the property. It was like, I guess like probably 10 years ago, they was like, hey, we might as well, I guess, start up a football team. They made that little extra patch of grass, pretty much our practice field. So pretty much had rolled your ankles. You lucky you even have a rolled ankle once a week. So our field goal posts were 2 PVC pipes with a pole in the middle that I guess the neighboring company or whatever provided to us a couple of years prior to I came. Then my weight room was literally like a 10 by 10 room almost with barbells that were bent. Yeah, dumbbells that were chipped up, half broken. So we ended up winning the state championship that year. Then the motto on it was we win with less. Yeah, we didn't have to have all the nice things, all the good things, and pretty much just saying we're going to work every day. We're going to work, and pretty much that work going to show up when the time.
What was the name of your coach? Tell me about him.
Winston Gordon.
Winston Gordon.
And Kevin Pope. 2 great dudes, 2 great coaches, great man. I think they're still there to this day, pretty much. And I think now, like, I know for sure when we was coming out, we had like like the most D1 or just most college signees. So just the stuff they're doing in that community and just to the young men, like they definitely impacted my lives. And yeah.
And then on Friday night, you guys like shared field because you didn't even have your own official field.
So we went to like a high school, Banneker High School. That was like 10 minutes away. Like the county or whatever scheduled it out where their home games will be our away games and our away games will be their home games. So I guess we pretty much we swap fields, was on and off with their field.
When you're dealing with schools like Henderson High, where they got their own practice field, they got their own stadium for games. Some of those places down there have got their own indoor facilities for their high school teams. Yeah. You guys had your walkthroughs like where? In the cafeteria?
Precisely so. So yeah, we'll clear out all the lunchroom tables and get it cracking in there. Like if it was raining outside, we'll just go in the indoor or go in the hallways, one of the 3 hallways in the school, and do a little walkthrough in there.
That's just 4.5 years ago. I mean, compared to this facility, where next year you're going to have underground parking.
No, definitely. Speaking of parking, we used to push cars to like our summer conditioning. Our coach, Coach G, used to have like a Tahoe or something like that, and so like bigs, O linemen, and D linemen will have to like single-handedly push the car around the parking lot. Then DBs and our skills, we'll be able to team up with one other guy and push it. But yeah, so yeah, we definitely got that working.
So, JJ, what was it like for you then to make the transition to South Carolina playing for the Gamecocks?
It was, I guess, for me, it was just so I kind of played D tackle my freshman year, so that's probably just the biggest transition to playing defensive end pretty much my whole life to kind of playing in the SEC, let alone as a freshman at 3 Sec. So that was a big shock to me, but overall, I pretty much feel like high school prepared me for it, whether it was at my bigger school or the smaller school. I feel like each one of those situations pretty much taught me something that I carried on to me to this day.
So to come from that school and then South Carolina and now in the NFL and to be out there playing and starting like you are, does that just say you're hungrier or you've been able to just put that stuff out of your mind and you're learning suddenly like overnight what it's like to train at the NFL level?
I kind of live by this day in, day out, but just my whole life, like I'm constantly improving on myself, whether it's mentally or physically. Like each day I try to get better. Each year I try to be a better me, be a better person. So that I feel like the testament to my commitment to that, and just continue to try to live through that throughout till I die.
So tonight against these Rams, Monday Night Football. Hey, number 15 is Tutu Atwell, 5'9", 4.3 speed. That's a guy that's coming on with their offense, right?
Oh yeah, definitely a guy who can be a playmaker when he gets the ball, shifty, fast as hell. Yeah, so he's definitely a little electric. It's definitely gonna have to stop him if he gets the ball.
You guys picked up a Ram, Justin Hollins, that you're rotating with on the outside.
Yeah.
How big a help has that been for you?
Let alone just the phenomenal player he's been, the plays he's been making the last couple of weeks, but he also been giving us tips throughout this whole week just on what the look for when we play against the guys and kind of just things that help us beat the guys or just beat our one-on-one.
How you feel about the cold weather? Tundra, baby. Tundra tonight.
It's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a good one. First gonna be my first negative game, probably first thing in the game in the 10s for sure. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Kingsley, JJ Enagbare, Green Bay Packers outside linebacker. Thank you, pal.
Thank you.
There you go. JJ the jet plane joining Mike Clemens for a couple minutes. Good stuff up inside Lambeau Field. Good stuff already coming out of there today. Don't forget, coming up tonight after the program, it's going to be the Green and Gold post-game show live right there in Green Bay after the game tonight. Listen for us immediately following on many of these same stations, immediately following the Packers and the Rams, and we'll bring you all the reaction and such coming right after the contest. But interesting stuff. Man, you talk about what some guys go through. They didn't have sleds. You had to push a coach's Chevy around. What you want when some guys get to the league and they're in awe. When you go from that to, man, it's just, wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Good stuff. Let's do this. We're going to step away. We're going to come back, and we'll start talking to Mike Clemens up in Green Bay. We're going to get a hold of Mike and start talking with him about tonight's contest. Obviously, some of the results from the weekend, which still bode well in favor of the Green Bay Packers. There's still a shot at them making the postseason, but more so as Enagbare was talking about, Mike was talking about, going to be a cold one tonight too. Going to be a cold one. By the way, I know I talked to my buddy Mike over at Connections Ticket Service over the weekend. He and I were texting back and forth, and tickets are like $40-$50. They're not expensive. If you want to go to the game and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, this might not be a bad way to go. You could probably get some tickets relatively cheap. It's not going to be a high sought after game. You can get it pretty close to game time for a relatively inexpensive price. So think about that if you want to go to a Packers game and maybe make this one your first one right before Christmas. This would be a good one to go to. There you have it. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends over there at Robert's Specialty Meats in Waukesha, your hometown butcher. I love the place, and I'm not going to be able to do it tonight during the game, but this week, Al Capone roast. It's in my future, without a doubt. Sunset Drive in Waukesha. Go to Robert's Specialty Meats, Waukesha.com. That's Robert's Specialty Meats, Waukesha.com. Whether it's the ribs on a stick, the chicken skewers, the meat salad, Al Capone sausage, Al Capone roast. He's got pork chops. He's got grilling fillets, bacon wrap fillets, mushroom caps that are already stuffed and filled. Oh, it's all so good. Just check out Robert's Specialty Meats, Waukesha.com. That's Robert's Specialty Meats, Waukesha.com. Or you can still order and go down and get that Christmas ham as well. So don't forget about that. Go to Robert's Specialty Meats, Waukesha.com.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
We need to be in the 30s moving forward. Regardless of what our defense does, we score 30 points, we should win those games. But if we can get ahead of teams at home, we got 3 out of 4 at home, we can put some things together, I think.
Welcome back to the program. Drops off more than a few wins for the Green Bay Packers and then a few losses for a few other teams. And before you know it, the Green Bay Packers are all of a sudden basking in the postseason. And if they're able to do it, well, then we'll all be a little bit more joyous. But it's going to be a cold one tonight up at Lambeau Field, without a doubt. 877-867-1670. This portion of the program also brought to you by our friends at the Bay Motel in Green Bay. Bay Motel, quiet, cozy, comfortable. And by all means, they have so many different amenities up there. They have the Bay Family Restaurant, home cooking, 365, 7 days a week, 365, and all that kind of good stuff. And don't forget, they're right there on South Military Avenue in Green Bay. Call them, 920-494-3441, 920-494-3441. And hopefully tonight the Packers are able to pull it off, and they are partying at the Bay Motel with Mike Clemens and the company afterwards. Good stuff. Mike joining us now on the hotline. Michael, how you been, buddy?
I'll tell you what, maybe Matt LaFleur snuck away this weekend to go see a mall Santa with his 2 boys, and he asked Santa, could you please bring me 30 points a game for these next 4 games?
Yeah.
That would make for a lovely Christmas for the LaFleur family.
That would be then, hey, Santa, can you give me a new defensive coordinator that actually knows what the hell he's doing before the end of the year? Oh, I'm sorry. Was that out loud? That was out loud.
Yeah, that comes after New Year's Eve. But anyway, so here's just a kind of a pulse check of the Packers locker room, and talking to 2 of the more, positive guys, but also pretty straightforward. And A.J. Dillon, who, with Aaron Jones and his ankle and this shin injury that he's had, I mean, he spent the whole bye week back. He didn't go to Texas or anything like that. He was going into the training room for 2 hours a day trying to get this shin back so that, they can use him more often in the running game. But when you got temperatures like tonight, it's really built, you think, more like for the power game for A.J. Dillon. And then Alan Lazard, can this guy be, reliable for you on third down and catching the ball? So, we talked to A.J. Dillon and Alan Lazard about the mood of the team coming back for the bye and how much the way they were able to put together a win in the fourth quarter against the Bears. And the Bears are coming out to play. I mean, they gave the Eagles troubles yesterday. So here's how these 2 players felt coming back from the bye.
Anytime you can get a win, it gives you a lot of momentum. And, I think that win couldn't have come at a better time. Getting the win right before bye, I feel like, we might have been away from the facility and from playing a little bit. But I think, everybody kind of went through that bye with hope and, coming off that win, and we're all high spirits. And we had a week to let that resonate and come back in here and build off it.
There's probably more pressure, I would say, because years past, we knew that we were going to make the playoffs at least, worst case scenario. Now we have to win these next 4 and then let the rest do itself for us to be able to make it in there. So a little bit of a different scenario, but at the end of the day, we should come in and do our work. Definitely feel like a new energy, back in the locker room today, just for the rest of the week and everything, just being able to knowing what we have ahead of us, and it's very well within our reach.
Mike, I thought it was interesting that Sammy Watkins let go today, which means you got to have a lot of confidence, obviously, in what Christian Watson's doing, Samori Toure, Romeo Doubs. You got 5 decent receivers, Lazard, Randall Cobb. So Sammy Watkins, no more.
Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised by that, but I guess they just feel that strong about some of these younger guys and get them on, and that's more of a statement for Samori Toure as well. That how much they want to get him on the field. So for Christian Watson, I mean, there's this guy's going to have a target on his back now. You don't score 8 touchdowns in 4 games in the NFL and people not circle you. And so you wonder, is Jalen Ramsey, who's quite the trash talker for all 4 quarters, are they just going to shadow him? Is Raheem Morris, their defensive coordinator, just going to put him on number 9 all night long? And, Christian says, yeah, if he starts talking, I swear I can just ignore it. I swear I can shut that out. The other guys have warned me about him, but here's what Christian Watson says. He knowing that he's got a target on his back, what happens if they put Jalen Ramsey on him all night?
I mean, at the end of the day, regardless of, who's across from me, my goal is to, win on that play regardless. But I mean, if I'm able to if they try to cloud me or, bring two, to, protect things over top, someone else is going to be open. But I mean, regardless of, who's across from me, caliber of player or not, a player like Jalen Ramsey, obviously knowing he's a really good player. I'm not thinking into that too much.
I get it. I mean, he doesn't want to think about the target being on his back and about being, man, so to speak. But I think, if you keep the creativity on offense and you're going deep every now and then, he's still used in some crossing patterns and such. If you really work back, Romeo Dobbs, obviously you've got the security blanket and Randall Cobb. I guess looking at rosy things and the thumb being better and the ribs being better on Aaron Rodgers, who knows? Maybe this thing can start to move.
Right. And the other thing is this. We've talked about the problems on defense and Joe Barry and some of his schemes. And then on offensively, how much of it is Aaron Rodgers and the thumb and the injuries at wide receiver and the injuries that you've had still, at offensive line at times, et cetera, which everybody's going through. Just look at the Rams tonight. But Adam Stenavich, this is his first year as an offensive coordinator. And how much has he been limited in terms of creativity? Is it creative? The guy's only been a coach, I think, 5-6 years, and all of a sudden he's offensive coordinator of a team that was expected to go to the Super Bowl again this year. How much of this has been on him? And I was very pleased when I saw in the second half of that game against the Bears, when they motioned Christian Watson in the jet, and instead they handed off to A.J. Dillon, not Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon going off to the left-hand side. He went untouched. There was nobody there. And then to come back a series or two later, and this time we're going to give the ball to Christian Watson, and he's going to run to that left side, which we think is weak over there. That we get someone to go. We get three guys on one side, and then we just got the one corner over there. And Watson practically walked in. That's creativity. And so I asked Adam Stenavich, is that how you guys? I mean, was that intentional? How you set that up?
Yeah, there's a few different, like when you put in plays like that, it's like, all right, here's the option A, option B, option C. So yeah, to answer your question, you kind of have all those different things built off that to set it up. So if you see a certain look or whatever it is, you're like, oh, okay, let's try this one out. So that's kind of how that goes.
With all the moving parts you've had in this season, a wide receiver and even on the offensive line, does that limit you in customizing something?
Yeah, it definitely does when you don't have those pieces or you don't know like who's going to be in the game, stuff like that. You kind of have to tailor it back. You still have some elements, but you definitely have to tailor it back if your personnel is limited for sure.
Another guy that they're going to have to worry about a little bit anyway would be Zach Tom, Mike, because he's going to be the guy that's most likely, unless there's been some miraculous thing happening over the last 24, 48 hours, that suddenly David Bakhtiari's walking through that door. He's not, and Zach Tom's going to get the call.
Bakhtiari told his story for just a couple of minutes with a couple of the reporters and said, yeah, it's like Thursday and I'm not feeling right. And then it's like, I better get this checked out, because it wasn't that painful, but it's something wasn't feeling right in the abdomen. My God, if he'd been a football player and said, and part of the thing was that they had a baby on the way any minute, so he just wanted to make sure he was okay so he could be there for his wife. So he goes in there and they say, yeah, your appendix got to come out. I mean, imagine if he'd put that off another 36 hours and was out there in the Chicago game, that thing would have burst. What a catastrophe it'd been. So you got Zach Tom, this kid who, early in camp, I was amazed at how good his footwork was and pass protection, and talked about that. And Elton Jenkins, who's, been trying to come back from the ACL. We asked him, do you expect the Rams defense to attack the rookie at left tackle early tonight?
They probably will. That's just been like my rookie year. I'm pretty sure everybody attacked me. So you just gotta, whenever they do attack or whatever, you just gotta be ready so they can know like you're not going for it. Basically, Zach really is a smart football player. So he, from when he first started playing to now, he come along real well. So I feel like now we're in a position where we all can talk together as five. So I wouldn't say that we got to help him out, but very smart.
Mike, this was a guy that I go back, Harvey, and you both were talking about going all the way back to training camp. He looked like a guy that was going to be able to fill the bill. I don't know if anybody expected him to play this much this early, but he hasn't disappointed.
No, and the other thing is that he's coming out of his shell. They keep throwing him into these games. He's finding out Sunday morning, hey, Elton Jenkins can't go. Yeah, how do you feel about playing left guard today?
Right.
They're telling him this before pregame warm-ups. And he's, in terms of just speaking and now and telling his stories, he's getting a little bit better at it, because we asked him, do you believe some of these days you've found out like 90 minutes before the kick that you were playing?
Probably looking back on it after everything, after the season and stuff, I'm probably going to look back on it and be like, man, I was in some weird, interesting situations, but I just take everything day by day. So right now I do. So I haven't really thought about it yet. But yeah, I'm sure after everything's said and done, I'm going to be like, well, I did a pretty good job.
Here's the biggest question. It's the trust. It's the safety issue regarding the quarterback. And does the quarterback feel, does Aaron Rodgers feel like Zach Tom is a trustworthy left tackle to where the operation of the offense can go off without a hitch?
Yeah, maybe if they had him a year ago, who knows? Because they threw Billy Turner out there when it looks like Bakhtiari couldn't go, and he wasn't 100%. And some people think, you mentioned Larry V. He's the one that said that if they'd had Bakhtiari for the Buccaneers playoff game the year before, that might have made a difference for the Packers to go to the Super Bowl. The good news is that Elton Jenkins and Zach Tom on the left side of the offensive line do not have to worry about Aaron Donald, because the best defensive lineman in the league is still out for this week's game because he's been dealing with an ankle injury. And Aaron Rodgers was asked, have you been impressed by what Zach Tom has done in his rookie season, particularly at left tackle at your blind side?
Zach, I got to give him a lot of credit because he's had multiple games this year. 90 minutes before the game, hey, buddy, you're in. And it's crazy. I've just never been a part of something like that in my career. So I give him a lot of credit because he's played both guard and tackle for us and stepped in and done a really nice job. Now, it doesn't matter, who's in there for us, taking over for Bach or right tackle. We're always going to have to help our edges in the passing game. And so we're going to make sure that he gets settled in. But he's had a lot of one-on-ones, and he's done a really nice job for us. So I got nothing but respect for him and his approach, because that's hard to do. You go all week, you don't take a lot of reps, and then, oh, hey, you're in there starting. A lot of credit goes to his approach.
Let's do this. We're going to step away, take a quick break, talking with Mike Clemens up in Green Bay. Packers getting ready to take on the Rams coming up a little bit later on the night. This portion of the program brought to you by our buddy Dwayne at Dwayne's Cover It All. They're up in Wausau. That's where you can find them, but they're the best boat cover, upholstery, awnings, whatever it happens to be that you need done, he can do it and does it for the best of them. Go to Dwayne's, D-U-A-N-E-S, Dwayne'sCoverItAll.com. That is Dwayne'sCoverItAll.com. Call him 715-870-2119, 715-870-2119. That's who I trusted to do all the upholstery and the new cover and the new bimini top and everything for my boat. Companies have had their office furniture reupholstered and such. Gyms have had their equipment redone. Guy does it all. Go to Dwayne's, D-U-A-N-E-S, Dwayne'sCoverItAll.com, or call him 715-870-2119.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Gifts. We got to get gifts. The soup makers, the grillers, the kids, the breakfast connoisseurs, even the pets in our lives. Wait, don't panic. Go to ShoseyFamilyBeef.com. That's ShoseyFamilyBeef.com.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
It's cool to have, because he's one of my closest friends, and sometimes the things that you go through are you can relate to one another, and we have similar values. We've been both very fortunate that things have gone relatively well, and I think it's helpful to be able to lean on somebody. Sometimes they say misery loves company, but no, it's really just you got another great friend that whether it's good for them or they've had some struggles or vice versa for us, just being able to have somebody that you can talk to that that you've had a great relationship with for a long time, and he's handled it really well. I've said to him, I've been so impressed with just watching the consistency and the steadiness at which he's handled things, and I think it's reflected with the way that they've responded in a lot of good instances based on some of the things that they've gone through as well. But love Matt, he's a good friend of mine.
Welcome back to the program. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at the Water Doctors. Go to H2, the letter O, doctors.com. That's H2, the letter O, doctors.com. And John Alley and his crew do such an incredible job with the Connecticut water softening system. And they donate back to the Custom Canine Service Dog Academy for vets in need. So please continue to support a terrific local company and people who get it done and do it right. And anywhere in the state, you can call them 262-549-7733, 262-549-7733. That's the Water Doctors, and they're great people. Go to H2, the letter O, doctors.com, H2, the letter O, doctors.com, or call John Atley and his staff, 262-549-7733, 262-549-7733. Mike Clemens joining us back here in this particular segment of the show before we cut them loose and get our butts up to Lambeau Field. But Mike, you've got, in this particular sense, Baker Mayfield, he said, I'm good to be home. So he suddenly feels like he's just got it all going on with LA after only one game.
Yeah, one of the things they did, though, they let him talk at his locker. They didn't give him the big, media press conference kind of thing. They're kind of flying him under the radar. Baker Mayfield had, one practice to get ready for that exciting win on Thursday night over the Raiders. He threw the winning touchdown to Van Jefferson, who he actually had a relationship with. When Baker Mayfield was at Oklahoma, he tried to recruit Jefferson to come there. Jefferson wouldn't even return his text. He chose Ole Miss instead. So he felt like he kind of owed him one. But Baker then did show up to his locker over the weekend, was asked, now that you've had a whole week to study the Rams playbook, how's the progress?
Where we're at right now with there only being 4 games left, it's one thing to try and learn the base install as much as I can, but don't want to overflow it because really it's about learning the game plan and what we're trying to do based on the defense and what looks we're going to get. So there's little things that, I want to try and learn, like what certain terms mean and what it comes from. But when it comes down to it, it's going to be really game plan oriented.
Defensively speaking, that's a team that's still going to try to get after Aaron Rodgers, especially with the young wide receiving core, and obviously with Zach Tom being a young left tackle, Mike. So tonight, when you look at this game and you say, okay, where's it going to be won? We can talk about all the specialty stuff, but you still got to win in the trenches.
Win in the trenches, and then also, trying to put some pressure on their backfield, trying to get a pass rush going with Kingsley Enagbare or now Justin Hollins, who's a former Ram who got suddenly released by the Rams about a month ago and picked up, and now you get this intel from him. So I'm talking, look at their 2 offensive tackles are both 6'8". And, though, they've had turnover. I mean, Andrew Whitworth, the veteran, he got his Super Bowl ring, finally retired at, 39 years old or something. He's on the NFL Network now. They tried to replace him with a guy named Joe Noteboom, who wasn't doing so well, then went down for the season with a torn Achilles. And then they've replaced him at left tackle with Ty Enshi. This guy, this guy's 38 years old, and I'm like, why? He's played on teams like the Corpus Christi Sharks and the Dallas Vigilantes, and then bounced around the league with the Colts, the Saints, the Redskins when Sean McVay was there about nearly 10 years ago, and so they pulled him in off the street to play left tackle. So I asked Justin Hollins, your new outside linebacker there at number 47, is it tough to go against these guys when they're 6'8"?
No, man. In today's league, man, all the tackles, for the most part, about 6'8", 6'7" anyway. So, it ain't no big deal. I came from over there, but they O-line, yeah, they didn't have some injuries, what I'm saying? My dog, AJ, he got hurt. No Boom got hurt, too. It's just they've been battling. But Ty came in, he's gave him a little spark, you know what I'm saying? He's held it down at left tackle. But, it's a vet-savvy guy. He's been in the league a long time. He knows a thing or two, He knows a couple things. So, you just got to prepare for him.
Mike, with the new faces defensively speaking, what does that do for Joe Barry, who's already under so much scrutiny and so much criticism,
Yeah, and I want you to listen to this because we had a long press conference with Joe Barry, and this is kind of typical of Joe. I mean, he compliments everybody, but really I was trying to get at the progress he's seen from the rookie, Kingsley Enagbare, having to replace your best defensive player in Rashawn Gary, who went down with the ACL. And then they bring in this Justin Hollins from Rams. He seems to show But you've had such a drop off. I'm looking for the evaluations in those two players, and Joe Barry kept on playing the violin about how much he misses Rashawn Gary. Here's how that went.
After Rashawn, talk about the progress that Enagbare has made for you as a rookie, and then adding Hollins from LA. You'd had some experience with Justin in LA?
Sure, yeah. I think, and I know I've said that up here with you guys before, I think when you lose a guy like Rashawn Gary, you don't replace a guy like that. I think he is the type of player, and he's gotten to the level of player, not only with his play, but with his demeanor, I've used the word grit with him, what he brought to us, not only as a front, as a defense, as a team. You don't replace that. You really don't. And, when an injury like that happens, the guys underneath that player, they have to rise up. And it's not only JJ, for that matter, it's Preston. Preston's game has to go to a next level when you lose a guy like Rashawn Gary on the outside. Everyone has to up their game. And, it's even a guy like JJ who was, a young rookie that, hopefully you're going to be able to kind of bring along. Well, now there's no time to bring along. You got to go. You got to up your game. Same thing with Justin Hollins. You can't feel your way through picking things up, even though we just signed you. You got to go. You got to go out and play. And it's all those guys. It's Jonathan Garvin. That whole group. When you lose the presence of a Rashawn Gary, all those guys got to pick it up. Not only JJ as the young rookie, and he's done some really good things. Some other things he's got to improve on. But I think the best thing for him right now is that he's playing. He's getting a lot of time.
Mike, as I sit here and listen to him, I can't help but think back to some of the comments that have come out of the locker room. I mean, just some of the guys that have been, I guess the best word is frustrated with things defensively, and at times where they've been accused of going out on their own, but they're doing it because they don't believe in what's kind of going on, so to speak. I just, as I sit there and listen to Joe Barry, I can't help but, pardon the pun, but he's kind of like dead man walking.
How can I put this accurately, carefully? Jair Alexander is a stylist in the way he talks, but there's probably right now no more open personality, no guy that's really wearing it on his sleeve as to where this team is at than Jair Alexander, a guy who they just gave a big contract to.
Mm-hmm.
So he probably feels pretty secure. And so we asked him, after that horrible game against the Vikings where you guys were just getting blown out and Justin Jefferson was cutting through your secondary with nobody covering him, clearly you were frustrated with the defense and the game plan that Joe Barry came up with after week 1, after that blowout loss. Now it's week 15. What's changed?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think as a competitor, it's natural for those emotions to show, especially when you care about the game and, performance. But, at this point of the season, I've done reflecting, had some time off, so you just learn that, not to get upset with these things, It's just like, you just got to keep going. That's it.
Oh, well, I mean, I agree. You got to keep going. You got to keep playing, but it's also during the losing streak, you got to figure out a way to win. I mean, that's the thing, whether you need to change up, away from the field, on the field, whatever. I mean, it's, you're just trying to figure out ways to win games at that point.
Well, he's also joking around that, Baker Mayfield, we picked him off 4 times last year with the Browns. If we got a good game plan, we should probably get 7 interceptions on Monday Night Football. So
right?
He's throwing that out.
Be great
right?
if he did.
So then we got to the point where after a 5-game losing streak, it was Jair Alexander who said, maybe we should be having a little less fun. Okay, well, so what does that mean? So now he's back to saying, you know what, we're back from the bye. Everybody's feeling better. Let's just go out there and have fun. Well, so what's changed?
Cause, man, it's so late in the season, right? And it's not it's pretty much win or go home for us. So, I think at this point we've tried methods, and the best method is just to have fun. Like at the beginning of the year, it's easy for you to have motivation and confidence. It's easy to be excited to play for the game, but as the season goes along, guys get a little unfocused. Other things happen in their lives. I told, I made a speech before the Bears game, and I was like, these last few games are going to tell a lot about a bunch of us, because, when our back's against the wall, like we going to see who take that same preparation week 1 into like week 13, week 14, because, that's how you sustain greatness is being consistent. And, a lot of times when my first year here, when we was losing, like, at the end of the season, guys was like playing, messing around, like they didn't have that same focus, So it's important that we keep that same focus, But I'm speaking for myself, really.
Yeah, he has to throw that in at the end. I'm speaking for myself because it sounded like he was giving us a little bit of insight as to maybe some things going on behind closed doors,
And I can tell you, that's all the stuff that's on the record.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. No, I
that's
completely
with microphones.
Understand. Yeah, it's you're I get what you're saying. It's kind of, I always say sometimes it's what's not being said. Take a listen. And I agree with you. Yep, good stuff. Mike, see you up at Lambeau, buddy.
See you there, pal.
All right, pal. Talk to you later. There you go. Mike Clemens joining us for a couple of minutes on the hotline. Good stuff from him, this portion of the program. Brought to you by our friends over there at Quick Trip. Don't forget to stop in, use your Quick Rewards number. Quickmas gifts are going on right now. So many good things going on at Quick Trip. And tonight you can hear your name called when Wayne Larrabee, the opening drive, says, hey, Quick Trip tonight, our winner is, and it could be your name. And then for every yard garnered on the opening drive contest, you can get $10. Plus, if they score, $500. How about that? That wouldn't be a bad way to go, especially this time of year. Check out our friends at Quick Trip. Stop in for the Quickmas, the 25 days of Quickmas, leading all the way up to Quickmas, and obviously the opening drive contest. And keep using that Quick Rewards card as well. All you got to do is give them a shout and type in that Quick Rewards number, and you get all kinds of good stuff along the way. Stay tuned. We're going to wrap things up. Coming up next in the Bill Michaels Show.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket, this is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Ho, 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 I need a window.
Baby, it's cold outside.
So where do I go? Ho, ho.
Come on, Santa. Go to Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Now is the time to replace your leaky windows and doors. You and Mrs. Claus can get your new windows while putting no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 24 months. Unwrap this gift now, but pay for it 2 years later.
More jingle that stays in my pocket.
That's right, Santa. Plus, our elves install year-round and in as little as 1 day. Pella offers lines in luxurious wood to fiberglass and vinyl.
Why not make a New Year's resolution today?
That's the spirit, Santa.
Hella no, pay later.
Absolutely. Put no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 24 months. But you have to hurry. Offer ends December 31st. Schedule your free consultation today at PellaWI.com.
Sure, with the license for details.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
The news, but Watkins signing that $4 million one-year contract with the Packers back in April. He was placed in the IR after injuring his hamstring. He appeared to be bounced back off the IR in October. He's also played at Buffalo and for the Rams and Kansas City and such, but just not working out here. In the meantime, the Packers, they've got a wide receiving core now of Randall Cobb and Christian Watson, Alan Lazard's, Romeo Dobbs, Samari Toure, and such. So obviously with David Bakhtiari being down, Zach Tom's going to get the start. Caleb Jones came off the illness list, and he's back as well. So they feel at least fortified until Bakhtiari comes back at the tackle position. So you're just trying to get by with a win tonight. That's it. Just trying to get by, get yourself a win, and continue to move on. And that's what the Packers are looking to do. A reminder coming up immediately following the game tonight, it's going to be the Green and Gold postgame show. We're going to be live. We're going to be in Green Bay. I'm heading out of the studio and heading up there almost immediately when we get off the air today. But don't forget, after the game, myself, Mike Clemens, is going to be inside the locker room. We'll hear from Mike and some of his interviews and such. So we got all of that coming up tonight. We're going to be taking your post-game audio. We'll take your reaction. We'll take your emails. We'll take your calls. Take you over on the Bud Light live stream and Facebook and Twitter and all that kind of good stuff. So we have that coming up. And again, that is immediately following the game. And if you don't get it on, for whatever reason, a radio station in your area, download the app. Go to the App Store in your phone. Go to WOZN, The Zone Madison, WOZN, The Zone Madison. And you can find the app, download it, and you can listen to it. And then immediately after the Green Bay Packers and the LA Rams coming up a little bit later on tonight, you're going to catch us with the Green and Gold postgame show that goes all the way up, I believe, until midnight tonight. So looking forward to that. Ben, anything
Packers
else?
cover tonight?
What's that? I think the
Packers cover?
I think
7.5?
Yeah, I think the Packers cover and win. I wouldn't put my house, but I think the Packers cover and win tonight. Everything is falling into place so far for them. Now we just, you need Washington to lose a couple more, or watch New York lose the next 3. And Seattle, you can almost guarantee they're going to lose at least one more for the remainder of the season. I think the big question is whether or not the Packers are just going to be able to simply win out. That's it. Can the Packers win out? And if they can, if the Packers win out, if they can, I firmly believe they're going to find themselves in the postseason. And it's going to come down to that last game of the year then, because you would assume they're going to be battling with the Detroit Lions for that spot to get them in the postseason. There you go. That'll do it. Until we talk again a little bit later on tonight, time for us to go.